Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. You always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I push my mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind you know I'll always manifest it. yeah.
Good morning and welcome to My Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick and I'm trying to get this show started, but of course with some technical difficulties, it's okay. We'll make it work. Hello everyone. Actually, let me turn on this candle over here. There we go. Oh, I had a good night's sleep. Didn't sleep much, but it was good enough for me to come on here this morning and continue a show. Especially do a morning show. It's been a while, but there is some news that happened overnight that I want to go over with you guys. So let's go ahead and watch what's been going on. See if I could get it correct now.
Their families are sharing heartfelt messages to the Trump administration. For example, Noah Argamani, kidnapped on October 7th alongside her boyfriend, Aventon, or saying, quote, this could be never have happened without you, meaning Trump. And the wife of released hostage Omri Moran thanked the administration for its relentless efforts to bring Omri and the other hostages home. But Israeli leaders warning the fight isn't over yet, and their military will still have to dismantle Hamas tunnels throughout Gaza. There was something like 390 miles of tunnels. How much is actually gone? Mark Dubowitz does a lot of studying in the area, great contacts, and the CEO and context, and the CEO of the Foundation for Defensive Democracies. Mark, first off, about what's going on right now, Hamas is targeting the clan that the IDF has armed and identified as people they could work with in the area. Is that a violation of this treaty?
Yeah, Brian, look, I mean, the IDF has been told to stand down, and Hamas isn't standing down. They're massacring Gazans. So they're in clear violation. They are not disarming, and they haven't returned the bodies of 21 murdered hostages to their families so that their families can give them the proper burial. So we got to hold Hamas accountable because we're letting them violate the ceasefire now. They'll be violating the ceasefire for days, months, and years to come.
So what about these tunnels? I would say it's like a hurricane and a tsunami hit Gaza at the same time. It's going to be hard enough to rebuild. You can't rebuild and deconstruct those tunnels while you're being shot at by a terrorist group. So what are the chances of the IDF being able to get back in there to blow up these tunnels, or engineers?
So you're exactly right. I mean, hundreds of miles of tunnels, and Hamas obviously didn't use those tunnels as bomb shelters to protect Gazan civilians. They used those tunnels to protect terrorists and weapons, and also use them for dungeons where they held Israeli and American hostages. So the IDF has to go in and destroy the remaining tunnels. But this is also the job, according to the Trump peace plan, of this international stabilization force, which would be comprised of soldiers from Arab and Muslim countries and others who are supposed to go in there and disarm Hamas, strip it of its weapons, and also strip it of these terror tunnels, which are actually deadly weapons.
You think they'll be able to do it?
I'm skeptical, Brian. Look, I think at the end of the day, I don't know how many of these soldiers are willing to confront Hamas. I think ultimately it's going to be up to the IDF to do what it's been doing, which is taking the fight to Hamas, destroying these tunnels, and ultimately it's going to be Israel that's willing to fight and die in its own defense. So I'm hoping this international stabilization force does what the Trump peace plan contemplates, but I'm skeptical until I see the commitment from these Arab countries.
All right, and yeah, they need pressure on Hamas. Now, the Trump yesterday, President Trump's task force, they're called. They were just unveiled the new counter-narcotics joint task force in the Southern Command area took out a fifth narcotics boat. They said they killed at least 6. Quote from Truth Social: the strike was conducted in international waters. 6 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed in the strike. How effective have these strikes been? And what do you think they're doing to stop the flow of drugs into this area and destabilize Maduro?
Yeah, Brian. I mean, as Israel has taken the fight to Hamas and Hezbollah and Iranian Revolutionary Guard terrorists, the Trump administration is taking the fight to these narco-terrorists who are responsible for over 100,000 American deaths a year from fentanyl and meth and heroin, cocaine. These are terrorists. These finally are being treated not as a law enforcement problem, but as a problem of counterterrorism. So I'm pleased to see the Trump administration doing this and using military force against these killers of Americans.
I love that the president's paying attention to Central and South America. He's telling Argentina, this is a friendly government. We need to kick out China, and we need them as an ally. Let's do it and give them an opportunity. I love what he did with the Panama Canal, and I love that he's not accepting that Maduro lost 70-30 in an election and stayed in power, and that's not okay, as he allies with Cuba, Russia, Iran, and China. So the president's got his hands everywhere, especially in our hemisphere. Mark, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And
All right, let's keep it moving. Come on. Give me 1 sec.
Let me give you an early warning. I'm about to show you something terrible. It's vision of the cruel and bloodthirsty murders still happening in Gaza, even though the ceasefire is in place and the war, we hope, is over. You see, Hamas are now back in control of the central areas vacated by the Israeli Defense Forces under the ceasefire. And Hamas, as is their way, as has always been their way, have been executing their rivals or anyone who dares to oppose them. And while we won't show you the actual executions, this is distressing vision. Yeah, how about the crowds gathering to watch? That was Gaza yesterday. This is terrible. It's nothing new, of course. Hamas has operated like this for the 2 decades that it's run Gaza. And it just shows you why Israel, with America's backing, was right to try to eliminate Hamas after the October the 7th atrocities. And by the way, it also underlines why Anthony Albanese has been so wrong so often by repeatedly calling for ceasefires when Hamas and Hezbollah in the north were all powerful, raining rockets on Israel, killing innocents and terrorising populations, Israeli and Palestinians alike. Albanese kept saying that Israel should stop pursuing Hamas. What lunacy. The latest killings also show why it's imperative that the remnants of Hamas are disarmed as soon as possible, as they are supposed to do under stage 2 of the peace plan, a point underlined today by the US president.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
yes.
This is the critical next step. But the point I want to make today relates to the media coverage of these executions. And not because I want to play games by poking fun at media rivals. This stuff is important. The coverage of the Gaza war has been dishonest and distorted, as I've shown you time and time again. And this has actually impacted on events. The propaganda coming out of Gaza, amplified by the media in the West, the self-censorship of the Western media as they've demonised Israel, well, that's helped to turn popular opinion against Israel. And it's led to governments like Australia's abandoning Israel and recognising a non-existent Palestinian state. And this, of course, has only emboldened Hamas and therefore extended the war. It's my view that if the international media had reported accurately and fairly on this war, and governments had kept the pressure on Hamas rather than demonised Israel, well, the war would have been over much earlier, perhaps a year earlier, with fewer lives lost, of course. But we'll never know. Anyway, let me explain how these executions and their coverage give away the bias and deceptions of the media. Remember, just a few weeks ago, I reported similar executions and I revealed how much of the media, including our taxpayer-funded ABC, were not reporting them. A warning again, distressing pictures here. These are Hamas terrorists who still control the people of Gaza, are still fighting against Israel, and here they are executing at least 3 people accused of collaborating with Israel. We won't show you what happens next, but believe me, the video does show the executions. This is the reality of Hamas-run Gaza, exposed on the very day that our government recognised the non-existent state of Palestine, which is half run by Hamas at the moment. And while the ABC gave blanket coverage of Albanese and Wong in New York, we have found no coverage of these real events in Gaza on the ABC website. Perhaps they'll enlighten us. But this is happening even though the BBC reported these executions and they verified that the video was shot in the middle of Gaza City. Apparently, none of this was news at the ABC. Now, I've also shown you how Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price saw that report and put the relevant questions directly to the ABC boss and got very little in response.
On Sky News, the Kenny report on Tuesday the 23rd of September, Kenny noted that while the ABC gave blanket coverage of Albanese and Wong in New York, we have found no coverage of these real events in Gaza on the ABC website. Now, I've also done a bit of research for ABC's coverage of this story and I haven't found anything. I'm happy to stand corrected if that's not the case, but it appears as though these events weren't widely covered by the ABC, and I suppose I'd like to understand why that's the case.
The particular story you refer to in terms of Mr Kenny, I'm not aware of that particular story. I'm not aware of the decision that was made to cover or not cover that particular issue. Obviously, I don't have any doubt that the ABC has covered the atrocities of Hamas and how they operate. I don't think our audience would be any doubts about that.
Well, I beg to differ. If you relied on the ABC, you'd have very little idea about the horrors of Hamas. Now, I've done an online search and I can't find any reporting of those executions last month in the 9 media newspapers, either the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. The point is that while the Green left media was busy demonising Israel, then showing the ruthless violence of Hamas just didn't suit their narrative. So often it's not about the facts with these people, it's about the narrative. But today, with the war over for now, we saw the latest executions were covered. The 9 media newspapers ran the story and we could see straight away why it now suited their narrative. The killings threatened Trump's Gaza peace plan. As US President Donald Trump and other world leaders were promising peace, the article said, Hamas fighters dragged 7 men into a small square in Gaza City, forced them to kneel on the ground and shot them. Yeah, an earlier headline even directly referenced the Trump peace plan. The executions suit their narrative now because they can be used against Trump's peace plan to suggest it's not working. Whereas previously they helped to justify Israel's war, by the way, that Trump supported. Pretty clear, isn't it? That's pretty sick. It's the same for the ABC. Hamas executions they failed to report while the war continued, they now report as a threat to the peace plan.
Yep.
The ABC reported how 7 men were dragged into the Gaza City square, hands tied behind their backs, forced to their knees and shot from behind as dozens of people looked on. The ABC report then said Donald Trump has previously given his blessing to Hamas to reassert some control of Gaza, at least temporarily. You see what they did there?
Yeah, they manipulated the
When
word.
Israel was fighting a war against Hamas with Trump support, Hamas executions were not worth reporting.
They're manipulating the media.
Now there's a ceasefire. Hamas executions are worth reporting because they're Trump's fault. I keep telling you, most of the media doesn't exist to inform you. they are out to misinform you. This is just intellectually and morally indefensible.
It's crazy.
And they're never held to account. Now, of course, it's a good thing that the leftist media is now reporting these executions. They should be sharing the facts about the barbarity and the evil of Hamas. But it's worth noting why they've changed their approach. One ABC reporter even spoke about Hamas barbarity on the 7:30 program last night.
So what Hamas does in these occasions when the Israeli troops pull out is try and reassert control right across the areas that the IDF has left in Gaza Strip, try to eliminate rivals. It justifies it by saying these are collaborators with Israel, but really this is also an exercise in control, in saying we are still here, we are still the main force in Gaza, and we're the dominant faction on the ground.
Yeah, it might have been a good idea to talk a little more about those sorts of tactics over the past 2 years, don't you think? Perhaps the ABC will soon get around to noting that Hamas is an Islamist extremist outfit too, rather than pretending they're fighting for a Palestinian state. But don't hold your breath. I mean, have a look at the ABC's news coverage last night about yesterday's momentous events and the release of the final 20 Israeli hostages.
The families of the returned Israeli hostages tightly embracing their loved ones. The feeling of joy reflected in Tel Aviv's Hostage Square.
It was really hard to keep hoping and believing, but amazingly it worked and they're home.
Not bad. I mean, there was nothing about the torture and the trauma they'd been through, or how they were innocents kidnapped for no plausible reason, or that 100 of their compatriots were killed in captivity. But at least the ABC shared some of the joy and the relief. But then have a look at how they covered Palestinian prisoners being released, suspected terrorists and convicted murderers and the like.
Excitement builds to a hero's welcome. These are among thousands of Palestinians detained by Israel during the war and held without charge. 1,700 have been released into the arms of families and friends. The time spent behind bars etched on their faces.
It was terrible. 2 years of torture, of pain. They broke us day and night.
Moain Wah says he also suffered abuse after his arrest a year ago in northern Gaza.
Every day they would beat us. The Secret Service also beat me. Torture was daily.
Similar scenes playing out in the West Bank as prisoners serving life sentences for security offences were released.
Yeah. Lesson number 1 of the Islamist terrorist handbook is that if you're ever captured, you must claim that you were tortured in captivity. Anyone with any knowledge of terror groups knows this basic rule. The ABC just runs with those claims, unchecked, of course, unverifiable. The ABC failed to mention either the murder offences and the terrorist atrocities of those prisoners released. They just said they were imprisoned for security offences, apparently. That's the ABC for you. It takes the release of innocent hostages, kidnapped, held and starved over 2 years, while 100 fellow hostages were killed, and its news coverage virtually equates that with the release of terrorists arrested for murders and atrocities and others detained for suspicion of terrorism links. And as ever, it's the Islamist terrorists and the terror suspects who are portrayed as the victims. It's
Crazy.
Extraordinary.
It's
most
crazy.
of the people whose taxes pay their wages at the ABC would actually prefer a national broadcaster that calls out the evils of Islamist terrorism and shares all the relevant facts.
Wow. All right, let's keep it moving.
Palestinian militant group Hamas handed over more bodies of deceased hostages to Israel on Tuesday. It's a sign of progress after a number of apparent setbacks, with both sides accusing the other of violating a ceasefire brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump. The Israeli military said on Tuesday it had received 4 coffins from the Red Cross, which were being taken for identification in Israel. The bodies were returned after Israel announced it would cut in half the number of humanitarian aid trucks allowed into Gaza. That move was designed to punish Hamas for what Israel called the group's violation of its agreement to transfer remains under the ceasefire deal reached last week. It was not immediately clear if the handing over of bodies was sufficient for Israel to restore the full flow of aid. The return of 28 dead hostages has remained one of the final details to be worked out in the deal to end more than 2 years of conflict. Hamas has now handed over 8 coffins of dead hostages, leaving at least 19 presumed dead and 1 unaccounted for. The outlook for Trump's peace plan darkened further on Tuesday when the president threatened Hamas with military strikes unless the militant group disarmed.
And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Hamas has so far rejected demands it lay down its arms, and Trump has previously given his blessing to Hamas to reassert some control over Gaza, at least temporarily. On Tuesday, Hamas fighters were increasingly visible in the streets of Gaza, according to residents, and in a video circulated late on Monday, the location of which was confirmed by Reuters. Hamas fighters executed several people they accused of collaborating with Israel in a public square in Gaza City. Hamas sources told Reuters on Tuesday the group would tolerate no more violations of order in Gaza and would target collaborators, armed looters, and drug dealers. Meanwhile, Gaza health authorities said Israel killed 6 Palestinians in drone strikes in 2 locations in Gaza. Hamas accused Israel of violating the ceasefire, while the Israeli military said it had fired on people who crossed truce lines and approached its forces after ignoring calls to turn back.
I mean, it's not good. I don't know. I just think that how they're doing it, I don't think it's the right way. It's just not the right way. It seems like it's like forcing the issue. You know, it's like you're gonna have peace no matter what, and we're gonna throw it down your throat. You gotta be peaceful.
Now it's time for
and if you're not peace, then there's nothing. It's like what's going on? Like, why the world acts the same way every day? I wake up as the same bullshit every day, no matter what, and it's getting a little tired. I don't know, something when something don't smell right, it's shit. You know, and there's a lot of shit going on here. Yeah, there's just a lot of things going on, especially here in the United States. So I'm just trying to bring up some videos here for us to watch. So I am getting them all nice and ready. Okay, that's the long version. Do got a couple of, let me just resize some of these here. Overnight, so much things happen overnight. It's just ridiculously how fast the media and how the world is. It's unstable. You know, as much stability we want to put in, it's still very unstable, and anything can pop off at any moment. All right, I think I got everything that I wanted. We're gonna go down the line. This is this one. No. Okay. Let's see. Let's keep it with the Australians for a little bit. They got a lot of issues over there. Okay, let's end up in Australia. Oh my god, are you kidding me? The Hamas could end up in Australia? Alright, we gotta check that news feed right now. Okay, let's watch this together.
The other night, obviously, when we were watching the footage of the the first wave of hostages being freed. We talked about the fact that Israel was quite successful in removing large sections of the senior leadership of Hamas. But we know, of course, that Israel's had to let 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, many of them the worst of the worst, many of them convicted of terrorism, out as part of this deal. So, you know, there's every likelihood that leadership group of Hamas have just now been reinvigorated and refreshed from these prisoner ranks. And we've also got concern that around 135 of these individuals will head overseas. There's been calls by the opposition to have the government rule out that they might return to Australia, sorry, not return, but they might end up in Australia. But to date, there's been silence from the Minister, Tony Burke. I mean, are you confident that we will be able to keep out terrorists, either from the prisons or people that are still to come here from Gaza, out of this country?
No, I mean, it's absurd, really, that we're taking people from Gaza when surrounding Arab countries are not. The government is cowardly and treacherous and fatuous on this, the Australian government. They should certainly assure people that no one who has been in an Israeli jail on a terror-related offence or any offence should be coming to Australia under any circumstances on any visa, temporary or long-term, whatsoever. I just think, but the other thing, Peter, is you don't really destroy a terrorist movement by killing its leaders. We saw that with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. That's not to say you shouldn't kill its leaders. They're enemies. You're at war with them.
Smells so good.
But it's unrealistic to expect that you destroy Hamas by wiping out its leadership cadre. Not only that, what Hamas is now doing doesn't require very sophisticated leadership. It just requires brutal men with guns who are willing to kill people, murder them and execute them when they're kneeling in front. Well, there are a lot of people in Gaza like that, and even if somehow or other Hamas one day says, OK, we're going out of business, well, the next day, what is it, Palestinian Islamic Jihad or the son of Hamas or Hamas Mark II? I mean, this territory started out anti-Semitic.
This is the problem.
Hamas is an anti-Semitic movement, and they've been indoctrinated to hate Jews. Now, it's going to be a long, long time. That's why talk of a two-state solution in the near future is so fatuous. It's going to take decades of normalisation before you can get a normal polity. And by the way, I think it would be madness to have an election anywhere in the West Bank or Gaza. I mean, elections don't work in the Middle East, and you guarantee Hamas or something like it comes back if you have an election there for local leadership.
Yeah, and I will say, Greg, you know, I've said this, I've written this, the best way, I think the only way to turn around radical Islamism is for good and decent and modern Muslims to say, not in my name, not in the name of our faith, we are leaving this behind us. This is medieval. This belongs in the Dark Ages. This is not how we are going to exist in the future. And unless it changes within Muslim communities and Muslim countries, there is not going to be change anywhere else in the world. I want to bring you home to some domestic issues, and one issue that I think is very relevant to some of the beautiful books you've written about faith. In Victoria, the government's just putting in legislation this week, quite dramatically, to expand access to euthanasia. And why it's interesting and why it relates to faith is it seeks to strip away the religious conscience of medical practitioners who right now in the current law do not have to participate in euthanasia if it is against their beliefs. That will go. They'll be forced to participate in euthanasia. And there's a second element. Up until now, under the current law, if you have a terminal illness and you want to end your life, you have to raise euthanasia with your doctor. Well, under these proposed changes by Victorian Labor, your health practitioner can suggest it to you.
What?
So you are terminal, you are at your most vulnerable, and someone you trust, your medical advisor, you know, your doctor, your nurse, your palliative care specialist, they will be allowed to say to you, why don't you just end your life? Come on, make it easier on your friends and family. What do you think about these changes?
Well, Peter, these are very, very profound and troubling
They
issues.
do that here in the United States.
It is relevant to that recent book we talked about of mine, How Christians Can Succeed Today, Reclaiming the Genius of the Early Church, because the early Christians stood against all these kind of practices in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, killing old people, killing unwanted infant babies, girl babies in particular, but also handicapped children. We're seeing a massive movement across the West to marginalise human nature, to trivialise human nature. And what the Victorian legislation is doing is trivialising the human condition by saying, you know, why don't you just get out of the way? If you're an old person and you've got dependents who need your resources and you're feeling a bit unwell, why don't you just get out of the way? Now, of course, they're saying you still have to be in extremis, but everywhere in the world where we've seen euthanasia legislation introduced, there has been a progressive weakening of the safeguards. We know older people who come from a generation where duty was much more emphasised than narcissism as it is today, already feel guilty about the amount of care and attention that they need from their families. And so if this was meant to be a procedure in extremis for people in terrible distress who cry out to their medical practitioners and family and say, I can't bear this suffering anymore, please release me from it. Instead, it now becomes a menu of options. You have, okay, here's palliative care, here's pain control and so forth. And the other thing is, human psychology is that you need help over the moments of peak distress. So if a person is having a bit of distress, and you say, well, you know, you can end this all by killing yourself and we'll help you. Well, I mean, this is absolutely appalling. And then the other side of it, removing the right of people with conscience, people with issues of conscience, doctors, nurses and other practitioners to refuse to participate in these kill teams is outrageous. And I think the Christian churches should hold big demonstrations at their hospitals, should go down to the front of the Parliament. I'd like to see the Catholic and Anglican archbishops leading demonstrations on the steps of Parliament. They are being forced to kill people needlessly who shouldn't die, and inevitably that will put pressure on innocent people who don't want to die, and they ought to take a very strong stand on this publicly.
All right, I'll leave it there, Greg. But of course, if people are watching at home and you feel strongly about this, please call your Victorian politician.
That's wild that they're letting that happen in Australia. I got some more news from Australia, so let's keep it moving.
And now it's time for Lefties Losing It, and we're going to start with a clip that I am sure will get all of the lefties in a spin. Actress Keira Knightley is now the MVP, in my view, for taking on the forever whinging trans brigade.
I saw your voicing Professor Umbridge in the new Harry Potter audiobooks. I was wondering, are you aware that some fans are calling for a boycott, given J.K. Rowling's ongoing campaign against trans people?
I was not aware of that, no. I'm very sorry. You know, I think we're all living in a period of time right now. We're all going to have to figure out how to live together, aren't we? And we've all got very different opinions. So I hope that we can all find respect.
Bravo. And look, the trans blackmail is backfiring, isn't it? It's done. Jog on. Well done to Keira Knightley. Well done. Now, Rosie O'Donnell has unfortunately graced us all down under with her presence in the last week. I know, rest in peace us, the sooner that she buggers off the better. But guess what? Or guess who she's been talking about the entire time? I know you know.
That he is afraid of smart, informed, strong women. And, you know, he thinks women are to be abused, to be grabbed by the pussy. As he said, I thought when that happened that would be it.
Oh, no.
I remember when Gary Hart had a girl sit on
said
his lap,
what?
a grown woman, not a child.
Excuse
that was
me,
the end
don't
of
use that
his
language on my
candidacy.
show.
And here he is saying what he says.
Hold on. I don't like to pause when I do my shows. I truly apologize when I do this stuff. But Rosie, watch your mouth. It's 8:42 in the morning, and you're talking about grabbing them in their yum-yums, but you used the P word. Are you kidding me? Like, who are you to blast out that to the media and to everyone. Like, first of all, where are you, Rosie? You're in Ireland. You have no business to be talking about anything that goes on in the United States. Like, you have no knowledge of what's going on over here because you're not here. You're away. You're fighting your battles in another country. Shut up, Rosie. You're an idiot.
Being who he is, and I think that strong women scare him and infuriate him, and I'm one of them.
Now, of course, in case it wasn't clear enough, she's talking about Donald Trump.
No!
Someone get this woman some help. Seriously, the woman is deranged. She's sad and just really plain stupid. Now to former President Barack Obama, because Donald Trump's actually also having a real TDS effect on him, it seems. Please, Barack, take some time out, mate.
I mean, what was unusual for me was obviously a lot of what I represented. Yeah. A lot of what Michelle and I had tried to project, the values, our thinking
Michelle
about
or Michael?
America.
He looks so gay.
My successor seemed to represent the opposite.
Right.
He is so
Not
gay.
seemed, did.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, some fear among a big chunk of the country.
What?
You know what's funny? I mean, he said his successor represented the opposite of what he and Michelle stood for. Well, he's not wrong.
Well, success.
And thank goodness for it. Look how much Donald Trump has achieved.
Yeah.
But seriously, Barack, give it up.
He's very
I've
successful.
become increasingly concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism sweeping the globe.
What?
We're seeing politicians target civil society.
This guy's an
undermine
idiot.
Freedom of the press, weaponize the justice system.
And what are you going to do
No
about
one is
it?
being spared. Even countries that thought they were immune from wholesale assaults on democracy now understand we're all
Why
part
the
of this
music? Like, I don't need the
It's an
music.
enormous challenge.
Like,
Yeah,
are you
because
kidding me?
everything was just so peachy under the Obama reign. At least he knows he will always have one fan to keep cheering him on.
Donald Trump wants to screw up Obama's legacy. This is all about Donald Trump being the small, petty man that he is, and he doesn't want Obama
Yo,
to
this
have
show is
that
still
legacy.
around. This show needs
Sonny
to be
always delivers,
gone.
doesn't she? Right on cue when the Dems need her the most.
My
now
goodness.
to TDS-afflicted lefty actor Martin Sheen, who should probably actually just stick to his day job.
So the big guy in the White House, if he would take some personal advice, you've got to realize, sir, that you are the biggest nothing in the world. And sir, you stop there. You stop listening to all these people around you, these sycophants, who are encouraging you to be your non-human self. Get in touch with that humanity. Stop fussing with your hair. And don't worry about your tie. And stand up straight and speak clearly, not from your throat. Speak from your heart. And start being human. That's what you were made for, not golf.
Look, this guy's a diabolical clown. I mean, Trump is out there brokering peace. Can anyone name 10 of Martin Sheen's best movies? Waiting, please. No. Now over to the deranged and tiresome UK Labour Party, which is now boring us all with claims that the British flag makes people a wee bit queasy.
And then I see flags painted on roundabouts, and that is just a bit weird. And you know, because you've seen it online and I see it in my inbox, that this does make people feel uneasy. And they ask what message are these flags supposed to be sending?
I mean, it's the rehearsed script, the walk, the hands. I mean, the left are they're tiresome, aren't they? It is quite draining. And unfortunately, it gets worse.
Now look, I'll take people at their words. People who say this is about national pride. I'm proud of my country too. And I'm proud of our flag. But I do understand why others feel that it's about excluding people.
He starts, now look, he says, look, if these loonies think that the national flag is so bad, the door's open. Off you go. Bye. And now to the dangerously dumb lefties who are still sooking over ice.
Why aren't we shooting back at them?
Can anybody explain that to me? What, like, I don't own a firearm, but if I saw an ICE agent, it would brick right to their dome. So why are the armed citizens not shooting back at them?
What?
Just a question.
You stupid.
Well, good luck with that one.
Even with DEI, people with disabilities, people of color, and presenting LGBTQ have had to work hundreds of times harder than fight for any position of power because they never had to work for it in their lives. We need to get rid of the real DEI hires, the white men.
Joining me now is filmmaker and commentator Armie Horowitz. Armie, nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. Donald Trump has awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honour, to murdered conservative activist Charlie Kirk on what would have been his 32nd birthday. At a ceremony at the White House, President Trump told the story about the time Charlie Kirk told him that...
With him before I met Erica, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, "You won't believe how beautiful she is." I said, "Well, then now that I meet her, he's right." But then he also said, "And you know what? Together, not often, but on occasion they go together."
Armie, Charlie and Erica had such a beautiful love story, but how poignant is this posthumous award?
I mean, so poignant, so appropriate, so lovely, so glad he did it, and of course, so deserving. Yeah, look, Charlie Kirk deserves every bit of what he's getting posthumously, and of course, what he got while he was alive. I mean, the man was a force of nature. And just, you know, look, he and I were not close friends, but we were certainly friendly, and we spent time together, and we worked together. And, you know, I remember the first time I met him, he was a teenager, 18, 19 years old, maybe 20. And you can tell, somebody introduced me to him, and he just started going. We didn't even know each other at the time. We never met each other. And he just kept going into this, you know, this dialogue of what he wanted to do, what he wanted to accomplish. And you could tell from the first moment that this guy was destined for huge things. And had he not been cut down by an assassin's bullet, the sky was the limit of what he could have accomplished. And even the first time I met him, he was so generous to me and wanted to help me, even though he was there for doing things for himself. He was at that creating Turning Point. Yeah, I could not think of a more appropriate way to celebrate what would have been Charlie's birthday. So yeah, God bless Charlie Kirk, and God bless President Trump.
Look, I completely agree. I think you're spot on. He deserves every and all accolade that he gets because he truly was a remarkable man. So I think this is just such an important accolade. Look, let's move on, Armie, because Donald Trump has ripped into the ABC, refusing a reporter's question at a press conference. Have a look.
Your ABC fake news.
First of all, congratulations.
I don't take questions from ABC fake news after what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States. I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Wow.
Now, look,
that's
wild.
wild.
What happened was host of This Week, George Stephanopoulos, abruptly ended an interview with J.D. Vance at the weekend after the Vice President did not directly answer a question about bribery allegations against border czar Tom Homan. Armie, look, good on Trump. The liberal media are an absolute disgrace.
There's ABC and the most of the legacy media is just so tired, right? I mean, they just don't get it. And look, Trump be trumping, right? Trump put ABC in a timeout. It's what he does. What do you expect, right? That's just the way. It's what he does. And now I'll get to why I said most of the legacy media in a second. But just to address for a moment why he was upset, right? You referenced the interview with J.D. Vance and Stephanopoulos. Look, it's unbelievable. First of all, this is a vice president of the United States coming to an interview with you. Right? You try to be, I would think, one will try to be extra careful about how you deal with the sitting vice president. But of course he wasn't. But he was mad because J.D. Vance didn't want to answer a difficult question. I mean, this is politician 101 when it comes to sitting down for an interview and not answering something you're being asked. Of course, he kind of evaded and dodged. It's kind of course, that's what you do when you're a politician and you're asked a question you don't want to answer. And you think he's done that with a single Democratic politician? Because they all do it, right? The answer is, of course, zero. He's never done that with a Democratic politician. They would only do that to a Republican politician. And the reason why I said most of the legacy media, because you now see something interesting happening with CBS. So David Ellison's Skydance, David Ellison is the son of the second richest man on earth, Larry Ellison, bought Paramount, and with Paramount came CBS. And he's done some really fascinating, interesting things, which I think are fabulous. First of all, an under the radar, but extremely significant move is he brought on a guy named Keith Weinstein as the ombudsman for CBS. And that's a very important position because it deals with the even-handedness of the network. And if there are complaints about the network straying one way or another way, it goes to that position. Keith is an amazing guy. He's going to do an amazing job there. I know him well. And of course, electing Barry Weiss as the head of CBS News, the editor-in-chief of CBS News, is an unbelievable game changer for that network. It really, really is. And look, we'll see what happens with CBS News and their ratings. Hopefully other people will follow suit. I doubt it. This is obviously coming from David Ellison, from the top, from the owner, because all the staffers are grousing, complaining, and the media is, of course, attacking the choice. But it's wonderful, and maybe it pretends things are changing.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. I just think that they should have given the vice president a chance, and they didn't. I thought it was a disgrace. So good on Donald Trump. Now, Army, I want to ask you about Donald Trump's Gaza peace deal. The president has vowed to disarm Hamas after the group was seen executing suspected collaborators in Gaza overnight in an attempt to regain control. But here was Trump earlier.
Mr. President, on Gaza, how long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games.
So, Army, Donald Trump has got the hostages freed. That's the first step. But how big of a challenge will it now be to actually fully disarm Hamas?
Yeah, so no shade to Maria Machado, the Venezuelan politician who has fought against Maduro and Chavez. I'm sure she's wonderful. She's great. But only one person should have won the Nobel Prize, and that's Donald Trump. Forget about the rest of the world. He has reshaped the Middle East. You know, when Israel denuded Hezbollah, killed Hezbollah's leadership, Biden screeched and hollered, right? And attacked Israel for doing so. When Israel bombed Iran, what did Trump do? He joined in the fun. That's the contrast of these two leaders and dealing with the Middle East. And with the first president, President Biden, we had this war going on for 2 years with Gaza. And with the current president, Donald Trump, he has reshaped the Middle East, which is setting up the entire region for peace. Now, having said that, when it comes to Hamas and disarming them, I kind of feel like he's walking into the same trap that Netanyahu did when Netanyahu laid out as one of the goals was the elimination of Hamas. Well, the problem is it's not really an achievable goal. That's the problem, okay? And when you lay out one of your strategies, one of your goals as doing that, you're setting yourself for failure, which is what he did on the Hamas front. Hamas is still there. They haven't gone anywhere. Sure, they've killed leadership. Hamas is not just a terrorist organization, which it is, and the head of the government in Gaza, which it is. It's also an ideology. You can't disarm an ideology. And while they've made incredible inroads in killing people in Gaza who are Hamas, the problem is Hamas is much wider than Gaza. So when I was recently in the West Bank and I was talking to people in the West Bank, there wasn't a single person I came across who's under 40 who doesn't support Hamas, okay? Hamas has incredible traction in the West Bank as well. And there's a reason why there has not been an election in the West Bank for over 20 years. because they know the Greens, Hamas, would win that election going away. So it's, look, disarming the entire terrorist organization like that is a difficult goal. I'm not sure it's frankly achievable. But if anybody could do it, I mean, I'm not gonna bet against President Trump.
No, I agree. If anyone can do it, I mean, he's already pulled off what many could not achieve. So let's see what happens from now on. Now, look, the CNN's chief international anchor, Christine Amanpour, she's apologised after suggesting that Israeli hostages held by Hamas were probably being treated better than the average Gazan. Have a look at what she said.
It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, you know, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had. Now Hamas has given up all its leverage, by the way.
Oh, she's a disgrace. And here was her apology.
I regret also saying that they might have been treated better than many Gazans because Hamas used these hostages as pawns and bargaining chips. But that was insensitive and it was wrong. From speaking to many former hostages and their families, like everyone, I've been horrified at what Hamas has subjected them to over 2 long years.
You know, Army, too little, too late. She's lost all credibility. How did she not know in the first instance that there is a very big difference between a hostage-taking bunch of evil jihadis versus the actual hostages themselves?
Yeah, I mean, you're giving her too much credit. She didn't lose her credibility. She hasn't had credibility in years. I mean, I would say she's a disgrace as a journalist, but she's not a journalist, okay? If she said one thing once and made a mistake, I could forgive. This is a long track record with her, okay? Just by the way, just for the record, so we're clear. The mistreatment of the hostages is legion. In terms of the food that they got, yeah, they look better now because, as they said, they were given food to the run-up to being released because they knew these images were going to come out. But the stories are talking about just the food alone. Talking about they shared a small tin of tuna and a few bits of cheese with a group of people. They were getting a pita a day. One person, because remember, they're all being held in different places, said he got one biscuit, small little cookie a day, and some briny water. And that they got a cucumber as a treat if things were going well. And that's just the food situation, but psychological damage done to these people is horrifying. I mean, this is one of the worst stories I've ever heard. Is Roy Chalet, one of the hostages who was released early on the 2nd year anniversary we just had, right? He committed suicide because he said he just could not bear the psychological burden that he had. But no, she is a disgraceful person. And again, long track record. I mean, she called Marwan Barghouti, compared him to Mandela. Marwan Barghouti is a terrorist who killed, murdered 5 or 6 Israelis, okay? She said that there was a rabbi who lost his wife and his daughters who were murdered by Palestinians, and she called it a shootout, right? When they were unarmed and murdered by these people. No, this is who she stands for. This is nothing new, so she gets no quarter from me.
No, I'm shocked that she still has a job, to be quite frank. Unbelievable. Now, look, Senate Democrats have blocked the GOP's efforts to reopen for an 8th time. So this is now day 14 of the government shutdown. And have a listen to some of the Dems' bizarre demands. Here's the Speaker, Mike Johnson, blasting them.
They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI+ democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
Army, we're almost out of time, but very, very quickly, you just can't make this stuff up, can you?
It's crazy.
Look, if you're not giving $13.4 million to Zimbabwe for civic engagement, you're not serious about running the United States government. Okay, I'm sorry. That's the truth. No, of course it's a joke. This is an unforced error by the Democrats. The longer this thing drags out, the polls are showing the more blame is being assessed to the Democrats. But they're still standing. They have not gone away from most importantly, this giving illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, Medicaid benefits through California and other places. This is still what they're doing, and this is a loser for them.
It totally is. It's just unbelievable. Army Horowitz, nice to see you as always. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
That's wild. Yeah, we're just living in really strange times. You know, it's a lot of weird things every day. Every day when you wake up, just in your mind, think it's a new day and there's going to be lots of people making the same mistakes every day. And it's not getting any better. It's not. It's only going to get worse. I've seen this. I've talked about this. It's not getting better. It doesn't matter who's in office, who's controlling. It doesn't matter. The narrative is not being controlled by Trump. Trump does not control the narrative. He's pretty much the same as everybody else, and that's a puppet. Yes, he's doing a lot. He's working his ass off. He's doing like double the work as like no other president has ever done this ever before Trump. And you know, he's making some progress, but the ones who are really controlling the narrative, they don't care what fucking Trump does, because what they're going to do is they're going to create more chaos. They're going to create more instability. Like, it's just, it's not good right now. It's just not good for the Democrats of the world. It's just, they want to control the narrative. They don't want to release their power. They love power. They love control. They'll tell you the sky is blue, they'll say it's red, and if you say the sky is red, then they'll say it's black. We never agree. We don't mix. It's water and oil, you know. It's just we don't mix, and it's crazy. I wonder what Greta Thunberg is doing, right? Because I haven't heard much of Greta. I spoke about this yesterday. How Greta just disappeared. Like she ended up in jail in Israel. She complained about the jail. She kept complaining about it instead of like raising more concern towards the Palestinians, like how she was supposedly doing. But she turned it now into, oh, the jails were so horrible. They treated me so bad. I can't take it anymore. I want to free myself and free the Palestinians. I want to free. Right? Okay. Trump just signed a peace deal with Gaza. He's trying to get all this situated to bring freedom to Palestinians and bring businesses to Gaza and the Palestinian state. But what does Greta does? Let's find out.
Well, Australians who participated in Greta Thunberg's flotilla to Gaza have ordeal. They've described the horrific conditions they were forced to endure in an Israeli prison and have complained that they had to pay their own way home. Here's Juliette Lamont.
Our medication was restricted, food and water. The cells are 6 metres by 3.5. I walked it out. Nobody was given any menstrual napkins. And we were routinely woken up in the middle of the night with huge blasting lights, with Alsatians and 20 men in riot gear. And this went on and on and on.
And here I was thinking people who sail into an active war zone, despite repeated warnings not to do so, would be put up at the Sheraton. Here's another protester apparently upset that Australian taxpayers didn't pay for his flights home.
Many of us spent days on Skyscanner trying to get flights home. Myself, I flew Amman, Kuwait, Dubai, China, Sydney on a very expensive flight that I've had to pay for myself to get home.
Joining me now is Sky News host Rowan Dean. Rowan, I want to move on to some other topics, but first, I got to get your reaction. Can you believe these guys?
Well, the torture and going on and on and on is definitely a case of a taste of their own medicine. The torture for the last couple of years for many of us has been listening to Greta Thunberg and her clown show, wandering around the Mediterranean, pretending that they have something to offer to world geopolitics. And as for that character, as you say, maybe he shouldn't have bothered, because the world is in no better shape for their efforts. In fact, the lives of the hostages and the lives of many Palestinians at the mercy of Hamas would be in worse shape thanks to their efforts, because along with Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese, all that Thunberg and those clowns managed to do was drag out the process that finished so brilliantly the other evening. But those people actually prolonged Hamas's sense that they could actually win this thing by eking out the agony. So, they should have learned their lesson. They won't learn their lesson. No doubt next time there's some other place that they can get some media attention, they'll do so. But seriously, I think the world's had enough of Thunberg and her clowns.
Have a listen to this pro-Palestine protester being investigated by UK police after chanting, "Put the Zios in the ground." His name is Samuel Williams. He's reportedly a student at Oxford, where he studies politics, philosophy and economics. Here he is.
Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud, put the Zios in the ground. Gaza, Gaza, make us proud,
The hell?
put the Zios in the ground.
Rowan, a couple of days after the event, police have said they're investigating and the university will look into it. Do you think someone chanting for, Muslims to be put in the ground would make it to the end of the day or even the end of the street without being charged?
Wow.
No, of course not. And this is just a sign, James,
That's
of
a
how
hate crime
far
right there.
Western civilization, in particular, one of the leading lights of Western civilization, Britain, has fallen to the leftist march through the long march through the institutions. Oxford, James, Oxford University is the oldest university in the English-speaking world. It's probably the second oldest university in the world. There were students there 30 years after the Battle of Hastings and the Norman Conquest. That's how old that university is. You think of Brideshead Revisited, Canterbury Tales, Oxford University features in all of those great works of literature. And here we have, it's called the humanities, James, the subjects that aren't necessarily medicine and the ones that actually mean something, engineering and so on. The humanities have to be churning out the most inhumane and vile individuals, not only from Oxford, but we've seen two cases recently from Oxford, not only this character, but we saw the bloke who had the great honor and privilege to debate at Oxford, Charlie Kirk, then turned round and mocked and celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now we have this character at the same time that Zios, as he calls them, in other words, that's just the modern slang for Jews. Jews are being buried in the ground in Gaza. 20 of them were released. There were many more that were buried there under the most horrific circumstances by Hamas, by Palestinian terrorists who took young kids the same age as that boy with all his privileges at Oxford, probably goes to rock concerts at Glastonbury and elsewhere. And were Hamas given the opportunity, they would do the same thing at the Glastonbury rock concert, and he would be one of those who would find himself in the ground courtesy of the Palestinian terrorists. It is sick what our universities are churning out, James. They are psychopaths. They are sociopaths. The depths of depravity that is coming out of our universities is truly shocking. It's truly shocking, James.
Yeah, and he's, as I said, he's studying politics, philosophy. This is the kind of kid who'll end up, in some position of leadership in the Western world at some point, presumably. God help us. Rowan Dean, appreciate your time tonight.
It's wild. Let's keep it moving because we've got a lot to watch.
We want to turn now to some breaking news on this Wednesday. Taking a look here at your screen at a social media post from Israel Defense Forces saying this: following the completion of examinations at the National Institute of Forensic Medicine, the fourth body handed over to Israel by Hamas does not match any of the hostages. Hamas is required to make all necessary efforts to return the deceased hostages. Taking us out to this live image that we have over at Hostages Square.
This is giving them any
in
dead
Tel
body.
Aviv, Israel, as I refer back to more of this breaking news reporting. So 4 bodies were handed over by Hamas on Tuesday to ease pressure on the ceasefire following an earlier 4 on Monday. That came hours after the last 20 living hostages were released. In all, Israel has been waiting for the return of the bodies of 28 deceased hostages. Israel, which released around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees on Monday, is also handing over bodies of Palestinians under the deal. It's a step awaited by many families in Gaza whose relatives went missing during the war. The military said that, quote, after the examinations at the National Institute of Forensic Medicine, the 4th body handed over to Israel by Hamas does not match any of the hostages. There was no immediate word on whose body it was. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu demanding earlier Wednesday that Hamas fulfill the requirements laid out in the ceasefire deal introduced by President Trump about returning the hostage's body, saying, quote, we will not compromise on this and will not stop our efforts until we return the last deceased hostage, until the last one. I want to also showcase this live image that we have coming out of Khan Yunis there in Gaza. So the U.S. proposed ceasefire plan had called for all hostages, living and dead, to be handed over by a deadline that expired on Monday. But under the deal, if that does not happen, Hamas was to share information about deceased hostages and try to hand over all of them as soon as possible. This is not the first time Hamas has returned a wrong body to Israel. Earlier this year, during a previous ceasefire, the group said it handed over the bodies of Shiri Bibas and her 2 sons. Israelis endured another moment of agony when testing showed that one of the bodies returned was identified as a Palestinian woman. Bibas's body was returned a day later and positively identified. Hamas and the Red Cross have said that recovering the remains of dead hostages was a challenge because of Gaza's vast destruction. And Hamas has told mediators of the truce that some are in areas controlled by Israeli troops. So we'll continue to bring all of this latest information here at Live Now from Fox. But again, the Associated Press and the breaking news that we have to share with you at this time. And I want to bring back this post on social media from the Israeli Defense Forces.
All right, let's keep it moving because we can't see what they wrote there.
Have been released from Hamas custody and have been identified, but the bodies of 21 people, including 2 American citizens, are still in Hamas hands. And President Trump is demanding the terror group release them and permanently disarm. The president writing on Truth Social, all 20 hostages are back and feeling as good as can be expected. A big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conrigas is a former IDF spokesperson and now a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and he joins me now. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for being here. We understand that you're standing in front of kibbutz near Oz, which is the site of such devastation and destruction at the hands of Hamas on October 7th. And because Hamas has not released all of the bodies yet, yesterday Israel reduced the amount of aid flowing into Gaza and decided not to reopen the Rafah border crossing. So with that in mind, do you believe that this ceasefire will hold?
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me on. Just following on the previous item, as an Israeli civilian, I would strongly endorse that effort by Speaker Johnson on behalf of millions of Israelis, ordinary people. They definitely believe that President Trump should be rewarded that prize and many others, because what we enjoyed 2 days ago was getting our brothers and sisters back. That was a tremendous achievement, and we're now in a ceasefire. That would not have happened without President Trump and his team. We understand that, we recognize it, and I hope that the truth and justice will be served and President Trump will be awarded that. Now to the situation on the ground, I think we are at the first test of how strong the metal is in terms of Israel and the U.S. And Hamas is testing the waters here. They're trying to not to release all the bodies of the hostages. Israel so far has responded very softly, and Israel threatened not to open Rafah, but actually the latest news are that Israel is going to open the Rafah gate. I think that's under American guidance and pressure. Because I don't think that Israel wants to really disrupt the ceasefire quite yet. What Hamas is doing is playing for time, and I think that President Trump's tweet saying that I'm not going to tolerate any games is exactly the type of leadership that is needed, because if Hamas drag out this stage and they will try to make an inevitable situation where they are de facto rulers on the ground, and that cannot be allowed to happen. If we want peace and if we want something positive here for the future, then Hamas needs to be disarmed, and control over the Gaza Strip needs to be taken out of the hands of Hamas, by the way, for the better interest of Palestinians as well.
And on that front, the Times of Israel is reporting that since the ceasefire took effect, Hamas gunmen have actually tightened their grip over Gaza and have killed at least 33 Palestinians who are accused of collaborating with Israel. And some of these videos that have been released, these are public executions that we're talking about. This doesn't appear to be the behavior of a group of people who are planning to relinquish power and authority over the Strip.
You are 100% correct. And what Hamas is doing is settling scores. It isn't against people that have cooperated with Israel. It's against various critics in Gaza. It's against people who are trying to rise up against Hamas's oppression. These are Palestinian Muslims. Yes, nothing Jewish here, and no Mossad agent are being executed, just ordinary Palestinians from rival factions and rival clans. And Hamas is doing what they do best. They are thugs, and they're executing people in town squares in broad daylight, in typical Hamas fashion. Now, I don't know if you've seen it on other news networks. I have not seen this reported in any significant way across most of mainstream media. And I wonder why. Isn't it news when 35 and more Palestinians are executed in cold blood? Or is it not news because it's not Israel's doing? But the fact is that Hamas is not looking like an organization that is ready to disarm, as they have committed to President Trump. And they're not looking as if they're going to hand over peacefully the control over the Gaza Strip. That spells trouble for the continuation of this deal. I hope that Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey, the main three sponsors of Hamas, will be told by whoever needs to tell them that the time for games and the time for this type of behavior is long gone. Hamas has lost, and they must concede. I hope that will happen for the interest of everybody.
Well, in the short time we have remaining, a big question for you, because these Hamas terror tunnels are another major issue, and the eradication of them is part of the 20-point plan. Logistically, though, Lieutenant Colonel, how do you do that?
It'll take a long time, lots of effort, lots of explosives, and lots of soldiers that do it. This is not something that is going to be done in a short time. Imagine if a contractor was given the assignment of demolishing the New York City metro or subway system. That's the scope of what we're talking about here. These are hundreds of miles of tunnels, and it's going to take time. I hope that it'll be done in the most peaceful and benign way without involving any other casualties. But I fear that it will include fighting. If Hamas is disarmed, it can be done in a peaceful way. If not, then it'll have to be done in a different way, which I hope that we can prevent.
Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
You're very welcome.
I'm Steve Doocy.
Wow.
I'm Brian
All right.
Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley
Let's
Earhart.
keep it
Click here
moving.
to subscribe.
Keep it moving. We got a lot to go. It's going to be a busy morning show. Thank you for those who come back and watch. You could come back and watch different segments. I try to make it very easy for people to come onto the show and watch the news that I produce, because I'm not just grabbing from one channel. I'm going all over the place and just grabbing stories and putting it into like a collage and then showing you guys what I'm watching for the first time, because this is what I would be doing if I was even live. This most likely 10 out of 10 what I will be doing. I'll be sitting here and watching a lot of news. So I'm just producing it live so you guys could watch it later or whenever you feel like it. And I try to do my best. And I appreciate those who come back and watch and leave likes and, all that good stuff. We do have a Tyson De La Cruz at the end of the show. We do have one to watch. You can see what's scrolling on the bottom of your screen. It says tomorrow is Thursday, and you know what that means. Tyson De La Cruz is going to be here. He's coming here. He will be here at My Mind Over Your Matter live, and starting time 7:30 Eastern Time PM and 4:30 Pacific Time on the PM. So it's going to be a great show tomorrow. What we're going to be talking about, I don't know. I don't know. Me and Tyson, we kind of like it like this. We don't communicate with each other during the week. We just meet up at the show and then we just talk, and debate back and forth. And we have a very good flow. We have good energy, and it's good to have to me, it's like a great co-host, like a co-host that I've been looking for like the longest time. And the fact I have no audience, that's crazy, right? It's like zero audience, but he doesn't do live shows like I do. And he has over 100, close to almost 120,000 subscribers. We're going to find out. Let me check. Give me one sec. I'm going to find how much Tyson De La Cruz, how many subscribers he has by now. He has 122,000. He is flying. His numbers are flying, and he's doing very good. And I know it has to do with the shorts because he's clipping a lot of his videos and then he putting them in shorts. And I'm sure he's getting a lot of attention that way. For me, I'm like, man, I could do it too. And it's just an extra hassle. I just have really bad PTSD, and I'm very something just tells me just chill. Don't get too popular because then you're gonna have a lot of people here, and it's just gonna be a little too crazy. I go, yeah, I know, and it's been very peaceful for the amount of times I've been on YouTube. I've had different seasons with different people. And it's like every season, I will call it season because it's like I'll take a break and then I'll come back and there'll be new people. And then I'll take a break and then I'll come back and then more new people. And this is the last time, I took a break for a year. I came back and guess what? I have some old people, but a lot of new people. So we just got to bring them onto the show and, and figure shit out. But yeah, Tyson, man, he has 122,000 subscribers. Actually, let me show you. You can see for yourself. Let's come over here, StreamYard, and show you guys. There's Tyson De La Cruz. And right here, if you come right here, and I'll highlight it. He has 1,100 videos and he has 122,000 subscribers. That's a lot. 122,000 subscribers. And me, I lost a subscriber. Right now, let's see, where am I at? Let's come over here. Let's go view my account here. 517. Look at this pitiful number. And I only have 853 videos. And I have 517. That's it's pretty wild, right? How low the numbers are. And yet Tyson has 122,000 and but he does really good videos. I love his videos. He has great content. I display it on here and for you guys to watch. Yeah, he does more of the recorded videos, and he posts. He edits and post produce his shows, and then he puts it out on a timely, like on a release, so it goes out to the public at certain times. And he has pretty much a lot of videos that he pre does and edit it and puts it out on YouTube. So I already know he's going to be very popular in the future. I can see him reaching 1 million subscribers for sure. The fact that I have him on my show every Thursday it's something, right? and this is a great opportunity for people to come and question him and talk to him and trying to react, and act and react to what he talks about every day and on his shows that he produces. Like every Thursday, you get the opportunity to come and interact with Tyson and me and ask Tyson whatever you want, especially if you watch his show and you have some questions about something that he produced, bring it. It's just right now we're just in really, really, really interesting times. But yeah, 122,000 subscribers. Okay, let's see what we got here. See what we have left, because I'm not adding on anymore. Maybe one more. I may add one more. Let's see. So a lot of videos for us to watch here. Let me see if I have the lineup pretty good. Okay, we do have a good lineup. All right, let's go ahead and see what's this. All right, let's check this out. Here we go.
They were throwing explosives, like firework-looking explosives. All like the people were out running, and there was about probably 25, 30 cop cars. But that cop car lighting on fire because of the explosives was insane.
Boston cops under attack when a street takeover descends into chaos. At one point, agitators shoot fireworks at a squad car, causing it to burst into flames. Look at that, with an officer trapped inside. Now, as the crowd continued to wreak havoc, two suspects, an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, were arrested and charged with assaulting a police officer. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Molly Hemingway, Fox News contributor, and joining us on the couch for the first time, we're excited to have him, John Ashbrook, co-host of the Ruthless podcast. Welcome. Well, the president of the Boston Police Union says his officers were always targets.
It has happened the last couple of years on a single incident or maybe a couple of incidents through the summer. Where it used to be drag racers would come in, they'd come in 1, 2, 3 in the morning, separate communities, spin the tires, make a bunch of smoke, and then go on their way. And we would monitor them, rightfully so. But what happened last weekend got out of control. It went through 4 different communities, ended up here at a couple of locations in Boston. And each location that they went to in this past incident, it appears as though they got more aggressive. And when they ended up in the downtown South End section of Boston, that pretty much, in our opinion, looked premeditated. They knew what they were going to do, and they were hell-bent on attacking police officers.
Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey pledged to put an end to this dangerous trend.
Anyone who engages in that conduct will be found and will be held accountable to the furthest extent of the law. I just want to be really clear that we have zero tolerance for this in the state. Some of the perpetrators are from Massachusetts. Other perpetrators are coming into Massachusetts. But whether you're in Massachusetts or you think about coming to Massachusetts, you are not welcome to engage in that conduct at any time, in any place, anywhere in this state.
But lighting a cop car on fire in Boston was just the finale for these vandals. Earlier in the night, crowds at other street takeovers across the state shot fireworks at cops, almost hit an officer with a possible stolen car and blocked crucial roads leading to a hospital. Emily, yet again, we see this, an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, this time assault and battery. And my question
military
is,
school.
how do you stop these individuals? This seems like an intervention.
Put them in the
someone
military
18
school.
or 19 years
Draft
old
them.
from becoming a career criminal who could go on to perpetrate other violent crimes.
Bring back
You
the
start with
draft.
deterrence, and that means enforcing the laws, and that means equipping the judges with some type of a modicum of control and influence over the outcome, so they don't sit there and say, my hands are tied, they're juveniles, so we're going to put them through family court, they'll be out in 2 seconds. Look, what I see here is a pattern that's very frightening, and to me it's reflective of the prior administration's lax policies and the Democrat and liberal DAs that have been allowed to foment and fester in all of these Democrat cities. And that is that out-of-state agitators, out-of-area agitators come and join what they were sort of describing as a ruckus. I mean, you heard the police union chief talk about it, the president talk about, look, it used to be, drag racing on the streets. Who hasn't done that? That's been there since the 50s, whatever, right? Now, he says, throughout the night, it was escalating in violence, escalating in targeting, and then culminating in what I see as an enhancement, by the way, that can receive the death penalty. If you shoot an explosive incendiary device at a car with a cop inside, that is absolutely death penalty eligible. So I think here they're making the right statements, but now we need to see it backed up with arrests and with sentences that are commensurate with the crime, not the ages.
Yeah, it's a great point, Harris, especially when you look and you have the union saying that the city was hell-bent, that these individuals were hell-bent on attacking law enforcement officers. We see this in Portland, and people like to infantilize the kids there. They're on a naked bike ride in Portland. No, they tried to burn down a place that law enforcement inhabits in a nice facility, and here again, targeting a guy in a car with a fire.
Yeah, I just want to visit this idea, though, that they are somehow adolescents working through aggression and trying to get older. I mean, these are men. These are men and women of adult ages. At that age, at 18, you could fight in a war for this country. They've decided to take their anger and purpose their violence toward, I don't even know what you call this because it's dangerous. So I like a one strike you're out theory for this particular age group. And Emily's right. So you make the punishment fit the crime, but you don't wait for it to be 2 and 3 strikes before you get tough on them. I mean, we are living in a place right now in America where soft on crime policies have gotten out of hand. So maybe they started when they were young and have just gotten better at it now. Well, then let's have that tougher conversation legally with them while they're still young.
John, I wonder where this attitude and this disrespect for police comes from. And I started thinking about it, and I think back to 2014, 2015, some of the narratives that were sown during the Obama administration around Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. And then Obama's DOJ comes out and says, hey, nope, nothing to see here. That was lawful self-defense. Kamala doubled down on the false narrative many years later. I bring that up because people have been taught, it's been sown in their head politically to disrespect police, disrespect law enforcement. And we know the bad apple in law enforcement is the rare exception. These are heroic men and women.
Yeah, cops have a very, very difficult job. And I have a bunch of friends who are cops. I've got friends who are cops during riots. I've got friends who are cops at the point that you're talking about in our country where, unfortunately, just the mood against police went way, way bad. I remember a friend of mine was taking his daughter to soccer practice, and he got off his shift, and he was in uniform. And people at soccer practice were like looking at him, giving him side eye. Somebody walked up and made a comment to him. And they already have a difficult job enough as it is dealing with all of these things that you saw in the video, that you need that support from the officials. And of course, now the governor of Massachusetts seems to be saying the right things, but how are they actually going to back it up? The mayor of Boston has been very anti-police throughout her tenure. And we know, and you mentioned Portland, in the state of Oregon, they spend more money on illegal health care than they do for cops.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. As you look at this, Molly, I mean, these are violent scenes. And you have Governor Maura Healey saying, we have a zero tolerance policy. Well, really? When Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu has repeatedly bucked Tom Homan, trying to play the strong woman, we won't work with ICE.
Well, you're right that these anti-police narratives took root more than a decade ago, but they really got going during the BLM riots in 2020. And we saw there just an actual agenda to decrease law and order on city streets, to remove police officers. And this wasn't just supported by the Democrat Party and the media, but also corporations, which I think we should remember gave $100 billion to the BLM movement. Criminals
and Antifa and other left-wing terror groups understand that to gain political control, you actually need to control the streets. And so it's not surprising that we're seeing these problems in both of these areas. And Portland has, to your point, John, has actually helped some of these criminals and Antifa networks think about how to avoid accountability for what they're doing to the city.
Yeah, and just a reminder, Kamala Harris solicited money and donations for the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And part of that money from that fund was used to bail out people in those 2020 riots. So that's how a narrative takes hold over time.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-host Harris Faulkner.
That's Emily Campagno. Hey, Emily. All right, let's continue.
And used beer bottles filled with gas to ignite the occupied home of the Pennsylvania governor pleaded guilty today to the attempted murder of Governor Josh Shapiro. This is some of the video that has now been released showing the situation as it did all play out. Cody Balmer also entered pleas to terrorism, 22 counts of arson, aggravated arson, burglary, aggravated assault, 21 counts of reckless endangerment and loitering in the April 13th attack that caused millions of dollars in damage to the state-owned brick building. Under a plea deal, Balmer was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison, far less than he could have faced if the case did go to trial, which it did not. He declined to address the judge's simple answers. Defense attorney Brian Walk said Balmer, quote, is taking full responsibility and paying, quote, a hefty price for a man who's 38 years old. Shapiro said afterward that he and his family support that plea deal and that it provides some real accountability. They had to be awakened and evacuated, but no one was hurt in the fire. The multiple arson and endangerment charges reflected the number of people in the residence at the time, including guests and state troopers. We did hear from Governor Josh Shapiro right after that guilty plea and the sentence. So what I want to do is play you those brief remarks here on Live Now from Fox.
This guy's crazy.
Earlier today, the defendant in the April attack at the governor's residence pled guilty to attempted murder, arson, terrorism, and several other counts. It's hard for me to stand before you today and utter the words attempted murder when it's your own life, to know that someone tried to kill me. It's especially hard to know that he tried to burn our family to death while we slept. To be honest, Lori and I have struggled over the last 6 months to try and make sense of all of this. And the hardest part has been trying to explain it to our 4 children and to our nieces and nephews. I've carried with me this enormous sense of guilt. Guilt that doing this job that I love so much has put our children's lives at risk. It's been really hard. And candidly, I don't know that I've been able to give them the right answers. I don't know that I've been able to ease our children's worries. But I can tell you we've tried, and it's been an ongoing effort to even just a few moments ago. Why would someone want to do us harm, our kids will ask. How were they able to get so far into the governor's residence, the place that was supposed to be the safest place we could possibly be? As you saw from the videos that the district attorney played, he was able to penetrate the residence right up to a door that led to the hallway where we were in our private living quarters. I know those videos are chilling. They've been haunting me for months. I've been trying to unsee them for the last 6 months. Now, when we walk through the residence, we often think about the steps he took and where he roamed. those double doors that lead to my office and Lori's office and where we sleep, those doors that he tried to break through. That metal hammer that he wielded that apparently he wanted to use to kill me with. The spot in the state dining room where the fire first began, the smashed glass of the windows that he used to enter into the home. I'm struck when I'm outside walking in the gardens, usually on the phone, tending to business, by the charred bush that remains outside that window where he threw the first Molotov cocktail. We also see the effects of his crimes in the extraordinary scope of damage at the governor's residence. The burden of the cleanup and the rebuild has been enormous. And as you know, it is ongoing. What you probably don't see is the subsequent security changes in all aspects of our lives and our children's lives. And this construction all around us is a constant reminder
That's wild.
of what happened.
This guy just went in there and just
that our personal
tried to burn his house
safety
down.
is not assured, and that we are vulnerable. His crimes also caused massive disruption in our lives and the lives of the people who we are privileged to know and who work at the governor's residence. I want you to know we will forever be grateful to the firefighters who rushed toward danger and put out that fire just in time. We're also incredibly grateful to the troopers who rushed our family out to safety in those early morning hours. And we're so appreciative of the dedicated staff at the governor's residence who continue to come to work with purpose and with joy every day. Laura and I are mindful that serving in public office today brings with it risks. It's a sad state of the world that we are in. But I have to tell you that before this attack, those risks just felt very theoretical to me. Something that might happen elsewhere to someone else, but couldn't happen here. Sadly, this made it all real. And it brings with it a real sense of vulnerability that our family feels every single day. I want you to know we are working through this, and you've heard me talk about the emotional toll this attack took. I need you to know this is an ongoing thing that we are dealing with and we are working through. And I think we're confident it'll get better, but we also know it's going to always be with us. Sadly, as you know, our family is not the only ones to experience political violence. Violence that is used to try and silence people or intimidate people. I think it's important that in this time of rising political violence that none of us grow numb to it or accept this as the normal course of doing business for elected officials. So many leaders from here in Pennsylvania and across the country, actually across the globe, have reached out to offer comfort over the last number of months. And inevitably, those conversations turn to their own sense of vulnerability, their own worry about political violence. I've talked to people who are thinking about running for office, who have said they don't want to because they don't want to put their families at risk. These are good people who just want to serve, want to do right by their communities, who are being impacted by this level of political violence that we're seeing in our country. I think we need real accountability for acts of political violence. And today is real accountability for the violence that came here to Pennsylvania. I want to thank District Attorney Franco, a friend for nearly 20 years, and his team in the Dauphin County District Attorney's Office. They've demonstrated great care, concern, and professionalism. This is a just outcome, and I want you to know that our family fully supported the plea that he negotiated. You know, from the morning after the attack when the district attorney and I and other law enforcement met at the governor's residence to this morning, District Attorney Chardo has demonstrated strong, compassionate leadership, and I am grateful to him. Today is a holiday in our faith, a moment to renew our spirituality and our connection to God. I want you to know we've leaned a lot on our faith these past 6 months to try and work through this. We've also leaned on the faith of so many others in the process. We've been so strengthened by the faith and the prayers that others have shared with us. And we have seen so much light in the midst of this darkness. I want you to know we are not deterred in our desire to serve others, in part because of our faith and how strongly we lean on it, and in part because of the examples that others have set for us. We remain focused and committed to doing our work on behalf of the good people of Pennsylvania, and nothing and no one will stop us from doing that important work. We will forever be changed by this. We know that time will heal, but the scars will remain. I want to thank you all for being here today, and especially want to thank those of you from the media from this area who have been there since the first moments after the attack. I've seen on your faces how this has impacted you, and I appreciate the way in which you have shared this with others who follow your coverage. Lori and I are grateful to you. We're grateful to the people of Pennsylvania, and we're grateful to have some closure on this chapter in our lives. Thank you.
All right. That was Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro responding after the suspect who did light his house on fire. That governor's mansion there, causing millions of dollars of damage, has now been sentenced and did plead guilty to that attack.
Okay, well, that's what happened. I mean, I don't know how many years he got. I don't think they really specified it. Let me see. Let me see if this story says it.
We will come right back to that. We have breaking news right now. The Pennsylvania governor.
I don't want to hear his speech
is speaking
again.
After the arson suspect pleaded guilty, now setting his home on watch.
I don't want to hear the whole shit.
They fear for the lives of their families. Violence might come upon them. And that calls attention to what I was about to talk about before we went to that breaking news. The suspect in this arson that you see the remnants of at this point has pleaded guilty in setting the home of the governor of Pennsylvania and his family on fire. No one was injured in all of that, but that guilty plea, he is now giving his first reaction, Josh Shapiro.
Hey, everyone. I'm
They don't
Emily.
say how many years he got.
Me and my
I'm not going to go looking for it right now because they don't say shit. Emily, they're not doing their jobs. Come on, Emily. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's keep it moving.
A federal operation led to a crash here, then a pursuit before spilling over into a nearby Walgreens store. That's where 19-year-old Warren King says he was shopping with family and friends before the Southside native was tackled and arrested.
He's a citizen! He's a citizen!
A takedown by immigration officers recorded outside a Walgreens store as loved ones pleaded for his release.
You don't know what's going on, so get the back!
It happened after federal agents were seen swarming the store, appearing to be in search of someone.
When he called for backup, other people come in, and that's when I start to leave.
But Warren King says he didn't get far from the exit before being tackled to the ground by a federal agent and placed under arrest. The 19-year-old is now left with scars, both physical and mental.
I'm telling them I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm here. I'm legal. I'm born here. So they didn't try to hear none of that, though.
It all apparently stems from this collision captured on video at nearby 105th and Avenue N, showing Border Patrol agents in this white truck crashing into a red SUV Tuesday morning. It happened following a chase that residents say circled the neighborhood for nearly 30 minutes after Homeland Security says the driver, an alleged undocumented immigrant, rammed into their agent's vehicle. Deployed tear gas soon enveloped the crowd that gathered in protest, some of them throwing items at agents, including eggs. Video shows one teenager being detained. Tonight, their attorney says they are an American citizen and have since been released. As for the
Yeah, but it's not about being citizen. It's you guys are committing crimes by assembly,
with both of them
illegal
for
assembly.
hours before he was released.
They just accepted their defeat. It wasn't no talking back between both of them, and they knew each other. I just graduated high school, so they could come from literally anybody, and that's not right.
And during the protest here, Chicago police say 13 of their officers were exposed to tear gas. In Chicago's East Side neighborhood, I'm Trey Ward, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
I mean, you see how the media is playing this? Like, oh, he's so innocent. He's innocent. Well, if he is innocent, then he is innocent. Then he's just collateral. If that's going to happen, expect that to happen. If you don't comply, if you run away from them, they're assuming it's a whole bunch of shit. And then they don't fill in the whole story of what the kid, probably did for the ICE agents to come after him. It's just, I don't like half-ass stories, and that was a half-ass story. You're not showing me all the cameras of when he was inside, before ICE got there. They just show you afterwards and him straddling on top of him to arrest him. It is, what it is. They'll process you. You're American citizen. They let you go. A lot of those people that are illegally assembling and throwing eggs and throwing objects and rocks and all that stuff, and if they get you, they arrest you, they're going to charge you. You're going to end up having to see a judge, and most likely, you're going to have to end up doing some community service or doing some kind of, fine to pay. I mean, I don't know how strict they're going to get now with all the things that are happening. It's just, we're in really unprecedented times. And the fact that there's no lawlessness, there's no laws, law officers and trying to control the citizens, shows how weak the mayors and the governor is of that state. And if they're letting their people and their citizens do whatever they want, well, then the government's going to, the federal government's going to come in and put some law and order into that state. And the only way you're going to really get the people's attention is when you arrest the mayor and the governor and charge them with treason. Charge them. There's a lot of charges you could charge them with. And it's, like I said, it's very unprecedented times that we're living in. We're living in very biblical times. I feel like this is digitally going down in history. I'm recording it, so it's always going to be on YouTube for the foreseen future. But let's keep it moving. Keep it moving. We still got more news to go through. And now let's watch. Well, maybe if I put the volume up.
For the next several hours, bringing you the day's biggest top stories and headlines. And one of those top stories takes us to the Pentagon, where in recent weeks, the Pentagon has told journalists that it would require a pledge saying they won't gather any information that hasn't been authorized for release. They have 24 hours to turn in their badges and begin Calista broadcast networks and news organizations who have said that they won't sign the new rules here. And earlier today, President Trump and Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, were asked about this. I want to bring that to you right here on Live Now from Fox.
On the press that report at the Pentagon, and have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. You have something to say?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
You know, we have an option here. As you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, you know, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there, I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, you know, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently, too. They can, you know, and they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it, although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. I mean, so you have them in an area and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that was some of the sound today from the White House. Pete Hegseth and President Trump talking about it. I do want to now show you what media outlets they put out a joint statement. This statement coming from CNN, Fox News, ABC News, CBS News, and NBC News regarding the new press policy, saying today we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements.
Well, then
which would
you can't
restrict
report in the
journalists'
Pentagon.
ability to keep the nation and the world informed of important national security issues. The policy is without precedent and threatens core journalistic protections. We will continue to cover the U.S. military as each of our organizations has done for many decades, upholding the principles of a free and independent press. So, and now we want to continue to talk about this.
You're not equal. You're not fair and
Break
equal.
it all down. Please
Especially the left, media.
With the Washington Post. Great to have you on, Scott. We
Like
really
ABC,
appreciate it. And first off,
CBS,
what are your colleagues saying
NBC.
about this right now?
Sure. So basically every single major media outlet that covers Washington, that covers the Pentagon, has said that they cannot abide by the restrictions that the Pentagon has put in place to basically trade access for oversight of all of their stories. The policy would have reporters agree not to publish any information that wasn't authorized, going beyond what's classified or unclassified, anything that's not authorized for them to report on without the Pentagon's permission. And it's just untenable for reporters across the ideological spectrum, including a number of conservative outlets.
And so the deadline was today, and now it's going to go into effect tomorrow. What is it going to look like then tomorrow? I mean, we only have one outlet, One American News, who says they're for it. I mean, is it pretty much their bureau now?
Yeah, we're really in uncharted territory. The deadline was 5 p.m. today to sign or say that you're not signing. Almost no one said that they're signing, just One American News, a Trump-friendly cable news network. Reporters have until 5 p.m. tomorrow on Wednesday to clear out. That's a laborious process for some of the broadcasters who have to lug equipment out of there and back to their bureaus. And so they have to turn in their badges and do the work from the outside, which they're all saying, we don't need access to do our jobs, to report on the military and on the Pentagon. So the work will continue, but outside of the building for now.
Now, is the thinking and maybe the fear as well for journalists that, okay, if it's implemented at the Pentagon, that it could bleed into other agencies as well?
I think right now it's an isolated policy. This seems to be pretty reflective of Secretary Pete Hegseth's own wishes, though Donald Trump clearly had his back in that press conference that we just saw today. And Trump himself kind of said, hey, I could kick reporters out myself or move them across the way to another building. So, it's not unreal to imagine that Trump might do something like that. He kicked out reporters like Jim Acosta and Brian Karem in the first administration, and they sued to get back into the White House. But right now, this seems to be Hegseth's move.
And speaking of Pete Hegseth's move, he put this out on X saying, Pentagon access is a privilege, not a right. So here is the Department of War press credentialing for dummies. Press no longer roams free. Press must wear visible badge. Credentialed press no longer permitted to solicit criminal acts. And then done. Pentagon has now the same rules as every U.S. military installation. So, Scott, tell us why media members are upset with these new rules.
Yeah, because first of all, the idea that reporters are just roaming free wherever they'd like in the Pentagon is just not true. So, that's, they have a specific area where they
then they shouldn't have a problem with it.
And then the policy
then they shouldn't have a problem with it.
More than that, it's about not being able to report on any information that the Pentagon doesn't want them to report on.
Well, then don't report it.
What Pete Hegseth says
if they don't want you to do it,
soliciting criminal acts is what we as journalists call reporting. We seek truth whenever it is, wherever it is, whether it's given to us or we have to ask for it. And the secretary thinks that when journalists do their jobs, only bad can come from that, and he's making that known.
And is this also a way, Scott, some people that aren't familiar with a lot of the practices that the media does and how they handle being at the Pentagon, some outsiders may say, this is a new policy. It seems like some of the media members do not want to abide to something that is new. They want to go the traditional ways that have been put in place years and years in the past. What do you say about that?
This is just, business
morning, Chloe.
As usual. I mean,
how you doing?
Reporters can do their jobs from wherever. Access helps reporters get closer to the Secretary of Defense himself and his spokespeople and the people that actually work in the Pentagon. But if that is going to be so closely monitored that it infringes on our ability to do our jobs, then it's not a trade-off worth taking.
And it's going to be, historic in a way when you just see just so many of really the legacy reporters that are on the correspondence wall there at the Pentagon, and their credentials are going to be pulled starting tomorrow. I mean, when you look at that photo, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a photo of all the credentialed press from different outlets, ranging from, the New York Times, the Washington Post, where I work, the AP, Fox News, CBS, ABC, NBC, you name it, and a lot of trade publications as well. It's just, this is where reporters go to work a lot of the time. They cover the Pentagon, they cover the military, they cover the defense industry, and they have desks set up there. So it's like getting kicked out of your office in some ways. The work will continue.
Well,
but,
no, you can't be roaming around
you know,
the Pentagon.
we will get different kinds of coverage because of the limitations imposed by the U.S.
They're
government.
trying to keep more secrets.
And do you foresee, since there's just so many media outlets that have signed on and said, you know what, we're not abiding by this, do you think there is going to be any change tomorrow? Do you think Pete Hegseth is going to say, okay, maybe let's advance it another week, see what happens, or do you think it's going to be pretty much just One American News in there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not anticipating any further changes. My understanding is that the Office of the Secretary of Defense stopped negotiating on this policy on Friday when they released they had their last word on this. But this is the second incarnation of the policy. They've already revised it once before. So I think in their view, it's done and finalized, and that's what it's going to be. But I think the better question might be is, are any news outlets going to sue? Are they going to take the government to court, which absolutely could happen? Certainly one of the many aggrieved news organizations who have said in their statements that this violates their First Amendment rights to freedom of the press may try to take this to court and see if a federal judge might rule this move unconstitutional. And it will be a very interesting battle
they don't
to
want
see
the Pentagon to
what
be
happens there.
anyone roaming
Definitely
around the
will
Pentagon.
be. But Scott, thanks so much for coming on and joining us and really breaking down what is happening. And we will see what happens tomorrow and in the future. Scott, we always appreciate it.
No, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. They don't want the media to be roaming around because they start reporting and then they jump the gun on several things because they heard from someone they were eating lunch with at the Pentagon, and certain areas, they should be secretive. You know what I mean? Because the Pentagon shouldn't just be open and the media just could go anywhere they want. It's like, it doesn't make any sense to be even doing that. They should be in their place, in their offices, and if they need to go have lunch, they can have lunch and all that good stuff, but they can't just be roaming around and can't do that. All right, let's go ahead and check this story out here. All right, we're going to the weather. Let's go check this out. It's all about the weather now for the next two stories.
Storm that was slamming California. Well, guess what? It's a coast-to-coast storm, and it's going to bring a mixed bag to every region of the lower 48 as we go through the week ahead.
So let's focus on one of the bigger ticket items, severe weather. I mean, we're talking about a tornado potential mid-Mississippi Valley, so a targeted area for this time of year. And the more heads up you have, the better. That's for sure. We're talking not only tornadoes, but possibly hail and damaging winds. Now, the timeline is going to be this weekend. So we're talking about Saturday and Sunday. We have a level 2 outlook issued by the Storm Prediction Center that really stretches from Texas all the way up through parts of Illinois and Indiana. When we have this early of a release, because this got released yesterday, sometimes we have an upgrade. So this is one that I would watch closely. But the igniter is a cold front. So ahead of this cold front, we're working with some heat. Temperatures are pushing the 90s across parts of Louisiana. We're in the 90s in Texas. So this clash of the air masses
It'll be a
will
tornado
support the
outbreak.
severe weather.
Right, all the humidity too, all that moisture getting.
Damn, Missouri's gonna get it.
Behind it. Here comes the front. The area highlighted there. If you look at this, you can see all of the surface winds coming in from the south.
Guys, this is tornado.
Off the Gulf of America. You throw
Tornado.
In jet, you throw in some cooler air.
Lots of tornadoes. When is this
It is
for?
our second severe weather.
Saturday? Oh man,
storms in this part of the country.
tornado
this time of
outbreak.
year. But now we're looking
Saturday.
at all the way to Saturday because it's one of those storm systems that you can see it.
Big time
moving from
tornado
coast to coast,
outbreak.
which is kind of interesting and fun to watch. Working behind the scenes and
Because you got the
everybody else
crossing
in the weather
winds.
buff. It's fun to watch.
With
And you got
this setup of wind
this moisture coming
shear, that
from the Gulf
change of wind
up,
speed and direction as you go
and
up
the
off the
direction here around this
as we have a
area is
powerful
going to get a
jet
lot of
touch
tornadoes.
air
Little Rock, maybe big tornadoes.
storms can grab onto those winds and unleash them down to the ground. And that's how you get like a freaky wind gust of 70, 80 miles per hour. So both threats are on there. In terms of October tornadoes, what's highlighted in red are the zones that we typically see tornadoes in October. So you can see an overlay, right?
Down south.
This is the zone that we would anticipate seeing severe weather
There's going
and
to be a
tornado risk in the month of
tornado
October. So
outbreak.
it's not a shocker, is what I'm trying to pass along. Here's the storm energy, because although we're losing daylight, we also have plenty of daylight and heat to work with, and that heat will support the instability.
In
And I'll tell you
Jackson,
what, that'll take us
Tennessee,
beyond
it looks like
sunset. So we'll
spinning on
watch
the
that
ground
closely, because look at the heat. You're talking
here.
about the humidity. Dew points are up into the 70s in Texas.
Yeah, right here.
This is sticky.
So gross. Most of northern Louisiana, in fact, a good
So
chunk
this
of
is in
Louisiana.
Jackson,
It's true, right?
Tennessee. That's going to be
carving
like a
pumpkins. You don't want to put them outside because it's
Tennessee.
just too
So
hot.
I
it's
mean,
here,
really, the
Jackson,
benchmark
Tennessee.
for severe weather in October, if
So that was around this area.
Mid 60s, that's enough.
crazy.
Low
That
70s,
tornado.
it's like, wow, that's a lot of humidity and moisture in the atmosphere. Here's a look at the flash flood
Jonesburg,
potential. You know,
there's
you're
going to
having
be
thunderstorms tap into
all over this area.
warmer
Gonna be
than average
tornadoes.
temperatures. So that warm air can support warm moisture, which thus leads to thunderstorms
Probably
producing
report on
heavy
it.
rain.
You get to hold more
This
moisture in the
evening,
atmosphere. That
if
means you
not
squeeze more out. It's
tomorrow.
like that sponge
But
that's soaked.
probably,
And...
you know, more of a threat for street flooding, I would say.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I mean,
especially for here.
It's a quick couple inches of rain,
Yeah.
but 1 to 2 inches of rain in this area would translate to a street flooding risk when the thunderstorms are rolling through.
Yeah, and then you look at some of the places that get a little orographic lift, so you might get that in a short period of time.
Some runoff down the hill.
Yeah, into the
that
hollers.
areas like, you know, Kentucky, West Virginia, because again, this front continues off to the east. We'll get to the east in a little bit, but it truly is a coast-to-coast threat that we're tracking with this kind of a setup. So as you work this cold front up into the Appalachians, it will allow for some heavier rain to develop.
There's your squeegee effect, too. Look at the front coming through. Behind it, different air mass, not much more in the way of moisture. It bumps in all the heat, all the humidity.
Crazy.
What do you have Saturday?
90 degrees in Shreveport.
Plus, think of all the dew points, the heat. It's just going to be oppressive for fall. You're like, wait a second. Are you sure this isn't spring? It's that kind of feel.
It's going to feel very warm for this time of year. Behind it, we drop to the 60s. So it's a good 20-degree temperature drop in general, give or take wherever you are. So for St. Louis, this is a good visual. 83 and muggy on Friday. Thunderstorm, severe risk on Saturday. And Sunday is like slam dunk. I am so happy for this zone because you get to capitalize on a really nice second half of the weekend.
Yeah, the first half not so much.
Dry, cool. If you need that perfect family photo
73,
in the pumpkin patch,
and in the nighttime,
plan it for Sunday.
49.
Everything's kind of lining up for
What
you.
a change!
That's what people are doing right now, right?
That's a big change. That's a big flux on the temperature. Let's get to the next story here. Let's put the volume up. Oh shit! They were stuck on the car. Oh damn! Oh, from the flooding. Look at that. Oh shoot! That's crazy. That's just not good. Not good at all. Since they're not talking, I'm just gonna talk over it. This is, you know, that water is moving pretty fast. And you just don't want to jump on it and jump in that water and then try to swim for it. I mean, some people do. If you're a good swimmer, you know, you can make it across easy, I'm sure. But if you're not a good swimmer and you can't swim, highly suggest don't drown, turn around. Let's keep it moving. Let's see what's this. Okay, let's watch this.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 637 on the East Coast and 337 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I'm here for the next several hours to bring you all of your top stories and live events from across the country and across the world. Right now, I do want to get you to a breaking story that we are following here with the Department of State, as the Trump administration has revoked the visas of 6 foreigners deemed by U.S. officials to have made divisive comments or made light of the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The State Department said that it determined they should lose their visas after reviewing their online social media posts and clips about Kirk, who was killed as he spoke at Utah College, Utah Valley University there, back on September 10th. The announcement came as President Trump was posthumously awarding him America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At Kirk's funeral in September, Trump called him, quote, a great American hero and martyr for freedom. The administration said its supporters have, those who don't support him have targeted people for their comments about Kirk, leading to firings or other discipline of journalists, teachers, and others, and raising free speech concerns. Right there, you can see the actual post itself from the State Department that says the United States has no obligation to host foreigners who wish death on Americans. The State Department continues to identify visa holders who celebrated the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk. Here are just a few examples of aliens who are no longer welcome in the U.S. Again, they did post that there on their social media, making this announcement a short time ago. The 6 foreigners who had their visas revoked were from Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Mexico, and South Africa. They were not identified, though. Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, quote, will defend our borders, our culture, and our citizens by enforcing our immigration laws. That is according to the State Department and a statement released. They also said, quote, aliens who take advantage of America's hospitality while celebrating the assassination of our citizens will be removed. Vice President J.D. Vance and other top U.S. officials encourage people to call out offensive language about Kirk that they see online. In an unusual tweet last month, Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau asked social media users to copy him on any relevant post, saying that he was personally, quote, disgusted to see some on social media praising, rationalizing, or making light of the event, and have directed our consular officials to undertake appropriate action, end quote. In addition to Tuesday's action, the administration has ramped up efforts to identify and potentially expel thousands of foreigners in the U.S., notably students, who it says have either fomented or taken part in unrest or publicly supported protests against Israel's military operations in Gaza. The administration has also denied visas to applicants whose social media histories have been critical of its policies.
Oh, boy. Well, that's how you start off with, you got to put your foot down. Let's see what else we got. Oh, boy. What's this about? Let's watch
Sharing
this.
some wild video showing how quickly a lithium-ion battery can start a fire, especially when a dog chews it like his did. Watch as the dog bites the battery inside David Sasser's North Carolina home. The 5-year-old rescue managed to break the safety seal, then chew the battery until it started to burn.
He bit into it, and you can see it, he's surprised by it, and then he's like, uh-oh, what did I do? Thankfully, it pretty much fizzled out because of the rug and because we were home so quick.
Wow.
Dog's okay. The batteries are safe to use, of course, but can spark fires if not properly cared for. Authorities remind you only to buy and use products with safety tags and not to overcharge your device or leave them charging overnight or anywhere, really. Pets can get a hold of them.
Wow. Yeah, you got to be careful with that. Let's keep it moving. Put the volume.
There's been a threat on the life of Nigel Farage by a man named Fayez Khan, who was an illegal Afghan migrant. Here is what he posted.
You not know me. I gonna come to England. I gonna passa, man. You know, there's mother passa.
Now, he posted that TikTok video. He's going to be found guilty of making a death threat, but he's going to be free and on the streets again in 18 months. London Suffolk Crown Court sentenced him to 5 years in jail, but with time off, he's going to be out in 18 months' time. And it seems outrageously short, Freya.
It does. So what happened was Nigel Farage was making a video about illegal migrant crossings. And in that video, he played a video of this man, Fayez Khan, who was documenting his journey trying to cross the English Channel as an illegal migrant.
What?
And said, hey, this is the kind of person trying to come in. Someone with an AK-47 tattooed on their face, probably not the kind of person we want in the UK. Fayez Khan then responded with that death threat.
Yes, yep.
And then now he's been detained. But Nigel Farage made a great point. This is just one example. How many more of these kinds of people crossing have gone undetected? Here he was speaking outside the court.
It makes me wonder, how many other madder passers are there now in this country? Or will there be as the boats continue to cross the channel? So I'm pleased with the judgment, but deeply, deeply concerned that this guy will be out free in 18 months.
Nigel Farage only found the death threat because apparently someone sent it to him on TikTok. I mean, it wasn't even the police going, hey, this guy's coming for you.
Well, they're too busy locking up reform counsellors saying they were born in England. I mean, obviously the whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous and concern. I mean, firstly, the idea, I mean, how stupid would you have to be to actually make a video of you illegally trying to enter a country so you can get asylum there? Like, if you really want asylum, I think you're just going to want to get pretty quiet about it. You know, I probably don't think you want to make that a sort of, you know, a munchable, bite-sized TikTok video. And then to, you know, look, just, I mean, I'm not a murderer, so I'm just guessing here. But if you really are going to kill someone, don't put a video on TikTok saying you're going to do it. And again, I'm not really particularly familiar with this world, but if you are trying to convince someone that you're a citizen of good character, maybe don't have an AK-47 tattooed on your face. Like, these are just little tips I'm going to give my kids as they get older and they're trying to get by in life. You know, if you want that big job, son, you know, maybe don't have the giant face tat of the machine gun.
It's so bad. And it then came out during the court proceedings that he'd already been convicted of around 17 crimes over in Sweden. So just absurd stuff, but thankfully justice was served. But there is some positive news in the world. A new study out of the US has found that the share of young people at universities identifying as non-binary has almost halved in the last 2 years alone. In 2023, 6.8% of young people identified as non-binary, so not male or not female, however that works. And now that's down to just 3.6%. So there was that huge spike post-COVID, and it's come right off. This gives me so much hope, but I think, Kel, it symbolizes two things. One, we've reached peak woke, which praise the Lord for that, but also that the social contagion elements, the fact that this was a trend, a fad, is also fading. People are starting to realize this is not cool. This is really weird.
And it really was a fad. There were instances in American high schools, for example, where if one girl decided she was trans, suddenly lots of other girls of the same age in the same class all made the same decision at about the same time. So it was that kind of social infection. I mean, this non-binary thing I find fascinating, how you identify as being not male or female. I mean, aren't you tempted to say, look, when you get out of the shower, just look in the mirror. You'll work it out. It's not that confusing. And the idea that you can identify as whatever you want to identify with, I identify as being a 7-foot-tall champion basketball player. Now, but I don't think
Cal.
Yeah, and I am, aren't I? Right.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think any team's going to appoint me to their team. So the identify what it means, I think, is there's been an outbreak of common sense. You can't live in fantasy world. Sooner or later, reality breaks in, doesn't it?
I think actually the real take-home message is that all the COVID vaccinations turned people non-binary.
Interesting take there from. But what does concern me is how many kids have already undergone life-changing hormone therapies as a result of this fad. I guess we'll find out in the future, and it'll be very, very sad.
All right, let's keep it moving. 1 second, let me set this up here. There's a couple of stories that came up, so I just want to couple of add-ons, but let me resize them. And okay, let's check out this one. No, that one is this one. All right, here we go.
Tragic end to the search for a missing Southwest Oklahoma State University student. His body found more than 100 miles away from where he was last seen.
And tonight, a fellow student, since he was first reported missing last week.
Late this afternoon, state agents shared the sad news. They found Logan at Veterans Lake near Sulphur in southern Oklahoma. News 4's John Hayes is there.
Investigators are still piecing together how Logan's body ended up in the woods near here, a devastating ending to this weeks-long mystery.
It's extremely sad. I mean, you're talking about a small college campus, a close-knit group. You're talking about two 18-year-olds that were involved in just a horrible crime.
A horrible crime, state investigators say, now cost 18-year-old Southwestern Oklahoma State University student Logan Musil his life. Musil had been missing for the better part of the month, last seen on campus September 12th before seemingly disappearing without a trace.
It took a lot of work to get to this point to find him, to find out who was responsible for his death.
Investigators now believe 18-year-old Cameron Lewis is his killer, telling us the two knew each other through school.
We do believe that our suspect caused harm to this victim and then left that victim's body at Veterans Lake in Sulphur.
Authorities aren't sharing how they tied Lewis to the case or why he and Musil ended up so far away from Weatherford. They also say they aren't sure when, where, or how Musil was killed.
I had actually talked to the medical examiner's office earlier today. They have not determined that yet, but they are working on that right now.
Lewis was arrested on the SWASU campus Thursday and booked into the Custer County Jail.
He was booked on a murder complaint and then booked on a complaint of transferring the body to that area.
We spoke with Musil's parents, Aaron and Jesse, this week.
He was a very loving, caring person. He cared about others more than himself. Yeah. He was super excited to go to college.
Thursday night, they tell us they are heartbroken and believe this is unfair, but are thankful for the arrest. In Sulphur, John Hayes, Oklahoma's News 4.
Leaders at Southwestern say they are deeply saddened by this and are fully cooperating with law enforcement.
Wow. All right, let's keep it moving.
A fire marshal is putting out a special warning on lithium batteries. They say we are seeing more fires caused by them because they are everywhere.
Wow.
News specialist Mike Anderson shows us what to look for. Mike?
You know, we actually had a lithium battery fire at our house not all that long ago. You can still see the burn marks from where it started here in the entertainment center and on the mobile speaker where the fire erupted from. You got the burn marks there and on the side. Luckily, it all was contained to this small area, but it doesn't always end up that way.
We've seen examples here in Utah of where lithium batteries can seemingly explode
my
and
God.
ignite, like this hoverboard fire in 2021.
Oh my goodness.
An e-scooter just this past May. Firefighters say our everyday electronics can burst into flame in a big way.
They run hot and they run real fast. So it's called a thermal overrun, and it's a chemical reaction inside the battery.
Andrew McCormick, a public education coordinator with the State Fire Marshal's Office, says it's important that people realize how dangerous something as simple as leaving a scooter or bike plugged in can be.
Each little cell finds the other cell with that fire. It just escalates and sort of exponentially gets hotter, faster.
With the batteries seemingly in everything, the National Fire Protection Association is putting out this warning at the start of National Fire Prevention Week.
Well, the number one thing is follow the manufacturer's rules for charging and use of the product. So they might say when it's fully charged at 100%, unplug it or take the battery out of the dock.
Whatever those guidelines are, follow them and beware of using the incorrect charger. Also avoid charging on a flammable surface.
Don't fiddle with it. You know, we don't want overcharging or getting in there and trying to upcharge.
And charging in a garage where there's no smoke detectors or sprinklers can help a fire get quickly out of hand.
And it is important to make sure you dispose of your lithium-ion batteries properly. There are a number of places that will do it for free. We'll have a list of some of those resources at KSL TV.
A lot of people throw that shit in the trash.
KSL 5 News.
A lot of people get those batteries and throw them in the trash. They don't take it to no facility to get checked and all this whatever and to depose the batteries. They throw that shit right in the garbage. All right, let's check out some more here. What is this about? Conjuring House Halloween auction canceled. Okay, I guess they were trying to sell the house or something. I don't know. Give me 1 second and we're gonna find out. Let me see. What's this over here? It's a story that I missed. I think we should watch this. This is important. The Conjuring 1 we'll see after. Let's check this one out. Let's put the volume up.
Saw the severe thunderstorm watch in 17 years. That happened yesterday morning. We brought it to you here on Fox Weather First. We saw at least a dozen rainfall records yesterday across Southern California as well. They even saw a funnel cloud in San Juan Bautista. This is going to be just to the east of Monterey Bay, between Monterey and Carmel. In through portions. Watch this right here to the right side of your screen. Watch. There it is.
Ooh, a little tornado.
Camera courtesy of UC San Diego. They've got great cameras all around the
Little
state.
tornado.
Let's bring in Fox Weather meteorologist Bain Ferroni
Touchdown.
to explain a little bit further, because Bain, this was widespread north to south as well, and this is going to be our coast-to-coast storm.
Absolutely, and it
Coast
was a
to
very
coast.
historic day in Los Angeles yesterday, like you were mentioning.
Oh,
that first
I wonder what that's
thunderstorm
gonna bring
watch
us.
That was in place in 17 years. Now, for the entirety of the state of California, we saw over 80 reports of some sort of damage, some flood warnings that rolled on in, as well as those wind reports. So let's kind of break this down for you. First, of course, it has been the first severe thunderstorm watch in 17 plus years. Again, that was over in LA area. And looking at our top rain reports, I mean, Haines Canyon, 6 inches of rain just since yesterday. And even further, we had some areas picking up 5.5 inches. Topanga, over 4.5 inches for us over there as well. I mean, just incredible amounts of water and rain that rolled on in, and these storms were intense. 3 to 5 inches of rain reported across Los Angeles County, while severe storms, of course, were warned. Numerous reports of flash flooding as well. This is an area that usually does not see this much rain. I mean, normally in Los Angeles, seeing maybe about 1/2 inch of rain coming in for the entire month of October.
Hey, we
And
got
I
the
want to talk a
rain.
little bit about those wind gusts that rolled on in. We had a 73-mile-per-hour wind gust that was near LA area, and there have been many reports as well. Mount Wilson, 69-mile-per-hour wind report as well. Peru, over 62-mile-per-hour wind gusts there. These were some strong systems. Now, of course, a lot of this is with the rain. All the way from Bakersfield, California, and farther south from Los Angeles, seeing close to 1 to 2 inches, but some areas picking up even more than that, 2 to 3, close to 3 to 5 inches for some folks. And like I mentioned before, California, they don't usually see this much rain all at once, so it can cause a lot of flooding issues. And that's why we saw quite a bit of flash flood warnings popping up as well. I mean, we saw some flood reports coming out of Westlake Village, as well as at Elmont and also in Torrance, where we saw flooding on roadways, on intersections. It was just a really messy day for a lot of folks that were trying to get around and trying to stay safe, honestly, especially as we moved into the afternoon. Now, that funnel cloud that we were just talking about, that was kind of heading towards the hills area. And this was reported from that social media post that we saw, that video that we saw just earlier. I mean, 70+ mile-per-hour wind gusts recorded, plus that funnel cloud. I mean, this was a very, very historic day over into California. Now, also speaking of Burbank, California, wettest October day on record for them. Almost 2.5 inches in just one day. And the prior record, I mean, they really hit this out of the ballpark. It's about 1.63 inches. So really almost an inch more for that record there, Craig. So, I mean, just absolutely incredible amounts of reports that we saw there. On top of this, 16 daily rain records were broken just yesterday, too. This was a very historic day into California. And like I mentioned before, it can be really scary. I mean, this is a spot that usually doesn't really see a whole lot of rain or even a whole lot of severe thunderstorms. So a scary day for a lot of folks. And as we start to move throughout the afternoon today, it'll start to clear up. But wow, just a lot of records being broken there.
Yeah, no kidding. And it wasn't even an atmospheric river, just a massive storm there. Bane, thanks so much for the breakdown. We appreciate it. Been watching that one closely because this is going to be our next storm moving across the country.
Yeah, that's going to be a crazy system that's going to be moving across the country. It's just we're just in really interesting times. We live in very interesting times. Is it going to get better? Is it going to get better? I don't know. Not this year, that's for sure. I expect more craziness to happen. We're just like very tip of the iceberg of crazy shit, and there's more to come. Like the year is still not over. We still got a lot of time left for more crazy shit to happen. We still got like what, 2 months and a half. So, but I do have more stories. I just a couple of add-ons that I definitely would like to watch with you guys. Give me a second as I resize them. This is gonna be a long. I don't think I'm gonna do a show tonight. Because I did such of a long show now. I'll probably come on for a little bit. We'll see. Because I gotta rest my throat too. But I do have add-ons, and I want to bring them up all the way up to the front. And let's see this one. What's this one? Okay. Let's bring that up. I wish this computer would go a little bit faster so I could see. It's weird. The body returned by Hamas is not an Israeli hostage. So they're just giving them any bodies that they find and say, yeah, here. And it's not the body. Yeah, it's wild times over there for sure. Okay. Go ahead and close some of these out. And I'm going to just go through this and then try to wrap up the show. Gotta resize them. Yeah, that's okay. The hell? What's this story about? All right. Just close that out. So a lot of them I gotta close out. So bear with me. Yeah, let's go ahead and close this out. Sorry, I'm a little quiet. It's just I want to make sure I get all this here. So I have everything organized. Okay, here we go. All right, let's watch the next one. The weather, the tropics. Let's see what's going on in the tropics.
Lorenzo, is that it's in the open water. You got to love a storm. That's no threat to land. Now, as we take a look at the overall steering pattern, though, Lorenzo might be one to watch just because we're going to see an interesting dance across the Atlantic, not interacting with any other weather system, but a very interesting steering flow. Let's take a look at our conditions. This is barely a tropical storm in terms of the wind speeds, 40 miles per hour. That dry air and, more importantly, the wind shear is really, really hacking at the structure of this storm. So the center is located pretty far away from where all the active weather is, the showers, the thunderstorms, and that displacement as it continues will continue to weaken the storm. So, I mean, yesterday we had winds at 60 miles per hour. Now we're down to 40 this morning. So that wind shear really does hack at the structure of this. But here's a look at the overall spin. Again, we track it. It moves around this ridge of high pressure, almost like a little bit of a carousel.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a loop-de-loop. You can see it better using this graphic, the tropical threat. But a very interesting form because of that ridge of high pressure kind of being the main steering. Lorenzo moving around it.
Pulls, like, you grab your hand and you take them around.
Well, and a lot of it is because Lorenzo is so weak.
Yeah, very weak.
It's not going to be able to hold its own, so it has to kind of hop on that carousel around that ridge of high pressure.
Look to the south there.
Yeah,
another wave we watch off the coast.
Interesting.
Because this area tends to cool down a little this time of year. The MDR.
Yeah, we still have the MDR, if you're not familiar, goes from the coast of Africa to the Caribbean islands. There we go, the MDR. To your point, Craig, we usually cool our heels. It's interesting because it's such a low potential being hinted at by computer models, and then they pick it up when it gets into a zone that you would expect.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, this is pretty far out. We're talking about middle part of next week, but the computer models are hinting that we might not be done just yet, that the Caribbean could be our birth zone for a late season storm.
Still plenty of time.
And almost every computer model here represented between GFS, Euro, the AI models, they pump out some sort of low pressure system. We'll see. Something to watch. Big concern here, though, is that the dinner table is set, so to speak. So the heat is there. And if we have a storm get in, it will be able to capitalize on.
All right, let's go on to the next story. See what else we got here. Let's put the volume up.
Page that was being used to target ICE agents in Chicago. The move comes as the DHS reveals cartels have issued bounties for hits on officers. Griff Jenkins joins us from Washington with the latest on this story. Griff, what do you know?
Well, good morning, Lawrence. I know the threat to ICE and federal immigration law enforcement has never been higher. DHS says there's now this tiered bounty system set up by Mexican cartels. Take a look. They're offering $2,000 for gathering intelligence or doxing immigration agents, $5 to $10 grand for kidnapping of standard ICE officers, and up to $50,000 for the assassination of a high-ranking officer. This after an alleged Latin Kings gang member is accused of putting a bounty on Border Patrol's commander-at-large Greg Bovino. $2,000 on info on him, $10,000 if you can, quote, take him down. Now, the gang member's attorney denies any ties to the Latin Kings and paints the man as a, quote, hardworking family man. But Chief Bovino refutes that claim and says things are actually getting worse.
Griff, the Latin Kings are associated with drug cartels, i.e. terrorist organizations. So those bounties remain and, in fact, have actually increased because of this, quote, hardworking man. It's unbelievable.
Meanwhile, in the wake of anti-ICE riots in places like Chicago and Portland, AG Bondi announcing Facebook has removed an ICE spotting group targeting officers. She writes on X, the wave of violence against ICE has been driven by online apps and social media campaigns designed to put ICE officers at risk just for doing their jobs. The Department of Justice will continue engaging tech companies to eliminate platforms where radicals can incite imminent violence against federal law enforcement. Now, a spokesperson for Facebook's parent company, Meta, says, quote, this group was removed for violating our policies against coordinated harm. All of this, Lawrence, comes as you know, ICE continues to face a more than 1,000% increase in assaults. Lawrence?
So I'm curious, Griff, this group, obviously it's the cartel. Is it the part of the cartel that's here in the United States, or are they doing this from foreign land?
Well, it's stemming from Mexican cartels, according to DHS, Lawrence. But as you well know, you've been on the streets of Chicago. They have multiple gangs in Los Angeles, in Boston, and places where ICE has tried to carry it out. And what's remarkable, Lawrence, about what's happening in Chicago, and that's where Bovino had that bounty put on his head, is that Governor Pritzker did an interview yesterday, now threatening to potentially prosecute ICE officers for carrying out federal law enforcement by removing convicted murderers, rapists, gang members that are here illegally in the country. Lawrence?
Well, also, Griff, you have a federal judge that said that they could not have that gate or that fence there, which was there to protect those officers. They already have to have counter snipers on the roofs now because of the threat from high. Now they have to worry about it from low.
Yeah, it's a legal battle about simply putting up fencing to protect an ICE facility where when they are apprehending violent criminal illegal aliens, they take them to this facility in Broadview, Illinois to process them. But yet we've seen night after night the violence. And let's not forget that Mayor Brandon Johnson has claimed to be the resistance leader in getting those protesters to come out. All of this after we just spent a few weeks ago talking about the deadly shooting at a similar ICE facility down in Dallas. Lawrence?
It's unbelievable. Something has to give. Great job, Griff.
Thanks, sir.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page.
All right, I'm back. I was just setting up the candles, relighting them up because a lot of them turned off, and I don't like to have my candles off. I like to have the energy up. So I'm like here turning them back on. Replaced a whole bunch of them, but I got to turn on more. I'll let you guys take a look. See, I'm lighting up all the candles. And light up this side over here. It seemed like it was a little too dark, and then I gotta light up the pumpkin. So let's go ahead and light up the pumpkin here. There you go. Let there be light in the pumpkin. They're like 16 days before Halloween, I believe. And let there be light. I still got more news to cover. I don't have no good morning. I'm doing good. I had my coffee. Now I'm drinking my water. I got to change out a couple of more candles here. So, let's see. I got one extra one here. I went to the store. I bought a whole bunch of candles. I got like 1,000 now, like 1,100 candles. Yeah, probably less than that now. But I bought a whole supply of candles because I like it to keep it lit, and it's good for me, the energy, for the show, the glow. Yeah. And at night, it looks very beautiful. And you got to come on at night and check it out when I do my night shows. All right, let's see what's going on here. Talking about Halloween. Let's check this story out here. Let's see what's this about. It's here in Connecticut, I believe. Give me 1 second to put the volume.
Developing news in the Conjuring House controversy. The auction of the home that was scheduled for Halloween has been canceled. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Montecalvo.
And I'm Shannon Heggie. Target 12 investigator Sarah Granelli has more on what this means for the historic property. Sarah?
Well, Shannon, Mike, an attorney who represents Needham Bank, tells me someone bought the mortgage for the property, but wouldn't say who is behind it or how much it costs. Another twist in the Conjuring House saga, the foreclosure auction that was set for Halloween is canceled. According to a law firm that represents Needham Bank, the underlying mortgage on the property was sold. While we don't know who's behind the purchase, they took over for the bank, buying the debt on the home. This means they can either ask the current owner, Jacqueline Nunez, to transfer the property or go through the auction process. This comes as Andrea Perrin, whose family's story inspired the blockbuster hit The Conjuring, took to social media.
And all I can think about is this vision that I have of you being at the farm as the owner.
She asked the paranormal community and the star of Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters, Jason Hawes, to buy the property. She said she's fearful that whoever buys the property will use it to make money instead of honoring its rich history.
There are historically haunted locations that have been bought up by corporations that are just looking to make a quick buck.
Hawes then created a GoFundMe with the goal of raising $1.5 million to buy it. It's raised tens of thousands of dollars in the matter of days.
When it comes down to my goal for the house, I would love to see the community come together, raise enough funds to get the property open, fix it up, get it open.
Target 12 has previously reported famous comedian Matt Rife and YouTuber Elton Castee also have had their eyes set on buying the property. The pair previously purchased Ed and Lorraine Warren's property in Connecticut, which is home to hundreds of paranormal artifacts, including the Annabelle doll.
To us, this is like a piece of paranormal history, and we just would really love to make this a place where people can experience it from all over the world.
Hawes and Castee tell me they don't know who bought the mortgage. With the Target 12 investigators, Sarah Grinelli, 12 News.
So someone bought the mortgage. Okay, great. All right, let's go to more news. Let's put it down.
This frightening scene appears all too real. Flames tearing through both stories of this suburban house outside Greenville. But the message from the home's owners, please stop calling 911.
It's all lighting. Each window has its own little setup.
It's just the latest Halloween decoration from Sam Lee and his fiancée Amanda Pedden.
That's crazy.
All smoke and lighting. The display, they say, is a hit with most neighbors.
We do have a 1% that don't like it, and that's understandable. They're entitled to their opinion, but we do it for the community.
If this is too far, what's not too far? What's the line? And who's to say what that is?
The couple gave the fire department a heads up about their elaborate display, but that hasn't stopped the calls from coming in.
Does this in any way take away from resources in a smaller fire department?
No. Granted, we're lucky. We're a block and a half from where the house is.
You can walk to it
at our main station. So regardless, if somebody calls, we're going to go.
But authorities are cracking down on other displays. In Stan, Kentucky, a 58-year-old man was arrested and faces charges for these fake body bags depicting local politicians in his front yard.
Oh, no, that's not good.
Controversy over this display from the wife of Mobile County Sheriff.
This is a very sad situation.
Skeletons dressed in serapes and sombreros being chased over a fence by other skeletons dressed as ICE agents. The sheriff's wife, Michelle Alfonso Birch, calling the display tongue-in-cheek, as this year even Halloween displays are fueling the flames of the country's political divide. George Solis, NBC News.
Wow.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated.
I mean, this Halloween, I guess, is a very political Halloween. So, just be careful. You don't get canceled, I guess, right? But some of them, the displays are beautiful, and some could be controversial. Some could be very funny. I really like the really funny ones. It's yeah, it's just Halloween. It's Halloween. I mean, I have my little pumpkins here, my little decorations, and it's a nice time of the year. It's always a beautiful time around Halloween. Am I dressing up this year? Probably not. I don't really dress up. I don't do this dress up stuff. But I don't know. I don't know what I'll be this year. Oh, I don't know. I'll try to figure it out. I got today to figure it out. So if anything, I could get on Amazon. I could get it here within 2 days. Today is Wednesday, so I'll be able to get it tomorrow or Friday. I don't know. Maybe I'll figure something out. Figure something out for Halloween. Halloween's on a Friday. So don't forget, it is on a Friday. So there's going to be a lot of activities, a lot of people on the streets, a lot of people on the roads. Be careful out there. Don't crash and die. We don't need that. Don't drink and drive. We don't need that. Be careful with the younglings that are, out there darting in the middle of the roads. Just, if you see a lot of kids around the area, just slow down. That's the best bet. Slow down. Okay, let's see what we got here. Let's watch this next.
Welcome back. President Trump unveiling a deal with UK-based drug maker AstraZeneca on Friday. The company will sell some medicines at a discount to the government's Medicaid health plan in exchange for tariff relief. Some of AstraZeneca's prescription drugs will be offered at up to 80% off of their listing price
through
the planned Trump RX website beginning next year. This is similar to the president's deal with Pfizer made recently, where direct-to-consumer prices on the company's drugs will be 50% lower on average. We spoke with the CEO of AstraZeneca on this news on Friday on Marie Bartiromo's Wall Street. Watch.
This announcement really is about putting President Trump's vision into action. So what does it mean? First of all, it means lower prices for patients in America buying medicines. It also means relief for state budgets because there will be an immediate reduction of Medicaid costs, and that will help the states. So that's point one. The point two is really maintaining, preserving Americans' leadership in biopharmaceutical innovation. It's also about onshoring pharmaceuticals. We announced yesterday an investment in Virginia, and it's only the first step of a very substantial program. And that will ensure that active ingredients are manufactured in this country. We're also manufacturing antibody drug conjugates in this plant, which are the future of cancer care. And the last part of the agreement is really about fairness. It's what the president called equalization. That means other wealthy countries paying a little bit more as America pays less. So the cost and the risk of innovation in our industry is fairly shared across wealthy countries.
And joining me now with more on all of this is North Carolina Congressman Greg Murphy. He co-chairs the GOP Doctors Caucus and is a doctor himself. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So what President Trump is trying to do here is just take out the middleman of the cost so that prices are lower for American citizens. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And, since the ACA, Maria, we've seen an explosion in the vertical integration in medicine where insurance companies own these things called pharmacy benefit managers, which basically extort money from pharmaceutical companies to keep for their own selves, which actually jack the cost back up to, or the money back up to the insurance company. And then they've gone down even to own pharmacies. What we're doing, and this is just brilliant, really, is it's shaking the middleman out, which is really the true sucking sound of what's happening with American healthcare, and just doing it direct to consumer. We're going to save hundreds of billions of dollars in doing it this way, and it's really a tremendous thing, and it's going to lower the cost for Americans. It's going to lower costs for states as far as their Medicaid goes. I think it really is just the beginning of the end of the middleman, which is destroying American medicine.
Well, I mean, why is it so expensive? I mean, I know sometimes I'll go to the drugstore for my mom to pick up her medicines, and, 1 month it's one price, 2 months later it's another price, 3 months later it's another price, and it's incredibly expensive. And I'm thinking, why is this constantly changing in price? Who's doing that? Is that the pharmacy, or is that the doctor, or what?
It's the formularies run by the insurance companies, run by the pharmacy benefit managers that may, if they can get a good rebate from a pharmaceutical company. Remember, the higher the drug cost from the pharmacy, the more the pharmacy benefit manager, those parts of the insurance companies make. So they have no incentive whatsoever to keep a lower cost. And so they manipulate the formulary, what's allowed for patients if they have this particular insurance, according to whatever they can charge the highest. So again, pulling this out is going to be important. I do think one thing is important. For any given pharmaceutical to bring from molecule to market, it takes up to $1 to $2 billion in studies, and most of the ones that are started never make it to market. So there's a lot of money that has to be spent for for a lot of them that don't ever make it to market. But then again, pulling out this insurance nonsense, this rebate nonsense, this spread pricing that pharmacy benefit managers, again owned by insurance companies for their profit, is tremendous. Here's one caveat, though. You know, when we do the Trump RX and patients pay directly to pharmaceutical companies, I've put in legislation, or am putting in legislation, to make sure that that money goes towards a patient's deductible. Insurance companies are not going to like that, but just because it's coming out of a patient's pocket as for their insurance, it should go towards their deductible too.
That's a good point. So the president is trying all he can to lower the cost for Americans, and yet the Democrats want more. They want these Obamacare subsidies back in place. The Senate failed to advance the GOP funding bill again yesterday for the 8th time. The government shutdown is now in day 15, 3 weeks, with fewer government employees at America's national parks. Squatters and illicit base jumpers are reportedly taking over parts of Yosemite. The Interior Department says it's investigating this as the Coalition to Protect America's National Parks is calling for the closure of all national parks until staffing is restored. You've got the Office of Management and Budget preparing more federal layoffs, Congressman, and we know that the layoffs have begun. President Trump told us that on Friday. What do you want to say about this government shutdown and its impact?
Well, first of all, it doesn't need to happen. We know that Schumer, Pelosi, even Obama have said you don't put policy in a CR. But sadly enough, they're hypocrites. They're going literally against everything they've ever said to shut down the government. If you look at what this is costing America, look at all the things that you just spoke about. And here the Democrats are holding the country ransom from $1.5 trillion in spending, some of which is to continue these ACA temporary COVID subsidies, which are basically, again, a shell game from sending checks directly from the federal government to insurance companies. Look, we can have that discussion. They're not due till the end of the year, and fully put reform in there. But sadly enough, you know, Schumer's afraid. He's running from his left. He's running from a bartender in New York, and they're holding the government hostage and the people, the American people, hostage because of it.
I want to ask you more about that, but we want to break into earnings news. Morgan Stanley is hitting the tape. Let's get to Cheryl with the numbers. Cheryl.
Very strong quarter for Morgan Stanley, and it was about the wealth management business and, of course, about investment banking. It is a double beat, $2.80 a share on earnings per share, $8.22 billion on revenue. Institutional fixed income,
good numbers.
$2.17 billion. Get this, in total, their global M&A deal making. $3 trillion right now. And also, they're talking about President Trump and talking about lighter regulations under the Trump administration that has spurred businesses to do deals, tap into capital markets. And they're also saying that the U.S. economy right now is, quote, resilient. But again, a strong deal-making quarter. And
those are good numbers.
Very strong at Morgan Stanley.
Well, I
Very
gotta tell you,
strong.
Morgan Stanley did
Stanley.
such a great job by going all in on wealth management when it did. I know UBS did, and Morgan Stanley were among the early ones, recognizing that it was the wealth management business that was going to be the real growth story, and that was Mr. Gorman. Now Ted Pick is in charge, and he's continuing that focus on wealth management, Cheryl.
Yeah, the numbers are very strong out of that division. Again, you know, with that $2.17 billion, you know, that net revenue in total, $8.23 billion. $8.23 billion.
That's a lot.
Yeah, big number, and the stock is up better than 2%. Congressman, want to get back to what your thoughts are on this broader macro story, because at some point, this government shutdown affects the economy. Right now, we're in earnings period, and we're seeing very strong performances from the third quarter, but we're in the fourth quarter now. So next quarter, I suspect CEOs are going to be talking about the impact of this government shutdown.
Sure. If contractors are not being paid out in the private sector, federal government employees are not being paid, so they don't have disposable income to spend. You know, there's some measures made by some of the other institutions here in D.C. to help out some of the federal government employees, but it's a no-win for anybody. Literally, we just asked the government to be funded on a Wednesday, just like it was on a Tuesday, again being hijacked by the progressive left. There's nothing good. Even Obama said this in 2013. There's nothing good when you put policy in a CR, and that's what the Democrats are being so hypocritical about today.
Well, you mean, it's about politics. I mean, I feel like, the fact that they're waiting for this No Kings rally to make a move, to me, screams just politics and holding on to their grip on power. Congressman, Vice President J.D. Vance revealed that the subsidies offered under Obamacare fuel waste and fraud in the insurance industry. You say the program is filled with billions of dollars for subsidies for people who actually don't need them.
Yeah, absolutely true. And, if you look at one report, it's anywhere from 6 million up to 20 million individuals who don't even know they're enrolled in this. And you had unscrupulous insurance agents enrolling people who, by the way, during the entire program, never used it, never filed a medical claim. Well, that'd be wonderful if all those people were healthy, but the likelihood is that they're not. So these checks are going directly from the federal government to the insurance company, nothing else. And so, again, there's a massive amount of fraud. And if we go in and deal with these things, hell and high water is going to come to those companies and those individuals who've been selling these scam policies.
Wow. Congressman, we'll be watching that. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Greg Murphy on Capitol Hill. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right. Let's keep it moving.
Head of the ambulance company says the vehicle was stolen after crew members had briefly stepped away and that no patients were on board. However, there was one employee in the back, and they say it was thanks to that employee's quick thinking that law enforcement was able to catch up to the stolen vehicle. One man is in custody tonight after leading police on a chase down I-294 during the height of rush hour, and it was all captured on video. Illinois State Police say they got a 911 call from an ambulance crew member who said they were currently in the back of an ambulance that had been stolen out of Niles. Chopper 7 was above as police pursued the stolen vehicle, driving erratically on the interstate, at one point getting stuck in traffic. The driver of the stolen ambulance made it nearly 20 miles towards Ogden Avenue before law enforcement deployed spike strips to bring it to a stop. Here you see police approach the driver's side window with guns drawn as they surround the vehicle. One of the officers breaks open the window, and then other officers drag the suspect out. The president and COO of Lifeline Ambulance in a statement saying the suspect stole the vehicle from a parking lot as crew members had stepped away for lunch. And while there was no patient inside at the time, there was a crew member in the back.
Oh my God.
Ambulance crediting that crew member for helping police stop and catch the suspect, bringing this wild chase to an end. As for that crew member, they were able to get out safely and uninjured. Illinois State Police say they are investigating this vehicle theft.
What? That is crazy. All right, let's keep it moving.
A homicide investigation is underway at a hospital in the Bronx after police say a 55-year-old woman was beaten to death at Lincoln Hospital. Her heartbroken family is demanding answers. They say they know who killed her. What they don't understand is why that person was released by authorities. News 4's Jessica Cunnington is live in Morrisania with the grieving family's fight for justice. Jess.
Yeah, Gilma, Cynthia Van's family gathered here at the Sherman Avenue Community Garden because this is where she spent a lot of time gardening and just spending time with her neighbors. And they stood right here today on her birthday and they asked how in the world she went into a Bronx hospital to get care, to get better, but ended up dead. Cynthia Van would have turned 56 years old today. She was a daughter, a sister, and Tanisha's mother.
I just want to fight for
Those
justice.
earrings are
I'm
really
gonna continue
big.
to fight until justice is served. My biggest support system,
Nearly 2 weeks ago, her mother died, her family says, after being attacked inside Lincoln Hospital, where she was being treated for a liver condition.
Oh my God. That's why I don't do shared rooms.
Noticeable.
My hospital has private rooms.
The Lord had to tell me that that was my child laying in that bed. Some doctors talked to us, nothing about how she got there or what happened to her.
Van's family and law enforcement sources say her hospital roommate, Raquel Houghton, punched her in the head multiple times early on September 10th. The injury is so severe, Van needed brain surgery. Prior to the procedure, Van's family says she reported the attack to hospital staff. She died days later, the medical examiner ruling it a homicide.
She not only just said it verbally, but she also did it in a written statement. So they knew that she was attacked for 4 times. And they took Raquel out of the room, but no arrest was happening. After some time has passed, she assaults a hospital staffer.
The Bronx District Attorney's Office confirms Houghton was arrested for assaulting a hospital aide and the attack on Van. The DA says there wasn't enough evidence at the moment to charge Houghton with the attack on Van, but prosecutors say they're still investigating. Van's family and legal team launching their own investigation and demanding leaders take action.
We will investigate. We will leave no stone unturned, and we will find out what failures took place.
The Bronx DA's office tells me that bail was set on Houghton in the attack on that hospital aide, but they say that a judge decided to release her a week later, and that was against the DA's request. We now know that the family says they met with the NYPD this morning. They're also in touch with the DA's office. They're calling on Lincoln Hospital to cooperate with the investigation here. We have not been able to reach Lincoln Hospital for a new statement on this or to Raquel Houghton either. But earlier this week, when we asked them specifically about this case, a spokesperson for Lincoln Hospital said New York City Health and Hospitals, Lincoln, is committed to safety of its patients, staff, and visitors. Live in Morrisania, I'm Jessica Cunnington, News 4 New York.
That was a fucking crazy story. That is a crazy story. A roommate killed the other person while sharing a room at the hospital. I don't do share rooms in hospitals. I'm sorry. I just can't. For safety reasons too. Because of this story, that's the reason. Not only that, but the germs. Because when I was in the hospital and I was in a shared room with someone in the hospital, I ended up getting a really bad infection and it almost killed my ass. And the roommates were crazy. They would put in my room. Like they had like mental like problems, and they would be like talking, screaming, like what the fuck, man? I was so pissed. After all that, I was like, no more hospitals with fucking share rooms. I can't do hospitals with share rooms. It's just I prefer private room, and the hospital that I go to has private rooms, so I like it, and that's why I am where I'm at. So with that be, let's see what else we got here. We got another story. What is this? Oh, got two stories back to back about the killing, about the 12-year-old being murdered by her, I don't know, by her family, I guess. This is an update, I guess, from yesterday. So let's check it out. Let me set it up and we can check it out. Here we go.
An emotional day in court there. Right now, 3 people are behind bars accused of murdering a girl and then dumping her body. The girl's mother, aunt, and the mother's boyfriend all facing charges.
Channel 3 is learning more about the investigation and the timeline of when she went missing. Your reporter Taylor Knight live in New Britain. Taylor, you've been on top of this story since it broke last week. What's the latest?
This all started exactly a week ago today when Jacqueline's body was discovered behind this home you see behind me on Clark Street. But police are saying that she was actually murdered over a year ago. You can see here a growing memorial outside the home where her body was found. Candles, balloons, flowers, all left in memory of Jacqueline. Her mother, Carla Garcia, her aunt Jacqueline Garcia, and her mother's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, faced a judge yesterday. They are all being held on bond this morning, and many people are left wondering how a little girl could be missing for that long. Police say Jacqueline was the victim of prolonged abuse, malnourishment, and neglect prior to her death, which they believe happened in the fall of 2024. But Jacqueline's remains were only just discovered last week in a plastic container. Right now, the State Office of the Child Advocate and Department of Children and Families are investigating her death and how she went missing for almost a year. The New Britain School District confirms the little girl attended kindergarten through 5th grade in the district, but was was withdrawn last August and enrolled in homeschooling. She was never reported missing, even though investigators believe she was killed last year.
Oh, wow.
The court documents related to this case are sealed until October 28th. Once those are unsealed, we are expected to learn much more about this case. As for the 3 suspects that were in court yesterday, they are expected to be back in court in Torrington on November 14th. Your
November
reporter in New
14th.
Britain, Taylor Knight, Channel 3, Eyewitness News.
I got to keep up with all this because I'm going to be keeping up with this case. This is from the state I live in, Connecticut. So we're going to definitely follow up on this case.
Get out of here. Get out of the world. Anger in the courtroom as 3 suspects accused in the murder of a 12-year-old girl face a judge for the first time. Thanks for joining us tonight for the news at 11. I'm Keisha Grant.
And I'm Mike Hydek. Those 3 suspects remain locked up tonight, charged in connection with the death of 12-year-old Jacqueline Torres Garcia. There has been so many developments since her remains were found 1 week ago.
NBC Connecticut's Jane Tracker joins us live in New Britain tonight. Jane, walk us through the timeline of this case.
Keisha, Mike, it's a story that has shaken the New Britain community and has left so many with questions. And tonight, the Beehive Bridge is lit up in blue in honor of that little girl, and she is being remembered by so many loved ones. This is Jacqueline Torres Garcia, known as Mimi. Here she is at 5th grade graduation, wearing her favorite color, blue.
She was happy all the time. Real happy. She liked to play.
She attended kindergarten through 5th grade in New Britain, according to the school district. On August 26, 2024, Jacqueline would have started 6th grade, but her mother, Carla Garcia, filed notices withdrawing her from school to start homeschool. Police believe Jacqueline was physically abused and malnourished before her death in fall of 2024. They think her body was kept in the basement of an apartment in Farmington and was moved when the family relocated to New Britain in March 2025. Months go by, and Jacqueline's grandmother told us in Spanish she never saw her.
Siempre decía que Jacqueline no nos quería ver cuando era mentira.
On October 8th, a 911 call comes in reporting people dropping off items, including a plastic storage bin, in the backyard of an abandoned property on Clark Street in New Britain. Police find human remains inside. 2 days later, on October 10th, police came out saying the remains belonged to a young girl. Family members told us they were Jacqueline's. Then family, friends, and strangers started leaving candles and stuffed animals on Clark Street, creating a memorial. On October 12th, police arrest Jacqueline's mother, Carla Garcia, charging her with murder. Her sister, Jacqueline Garcia, was also arrested, charged with risk of injury to a child and cruelty to persons. The next day, police held a press conference calling this case heartbreaking and disturbing.
35 years. This is probably one of the worst cases that we've had.
Police said they were still looking for Carla Garcia's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita. On October 13th, police arrested and charged him with murder. Our cameras caught him being put into a state police cruiser, leaving New Britain PD.
Given the facts and circumstances of the case, the nature of the charges.
The next day, October 14th, all 3 appeared before a judge for the first time. Family of Jacqueline Torres Garcia packed the courtroom, emotional at the sight of her alleged killers. And all 3 are expected back in court on November 14th, and the details linking them to the abuse and murder have not been made public yet. Those warrants remain sealed for the next 2 weeks. In New Britain, Jane Tracker, NBC Connecticut News.
All right, I got to write that down, November 14th. I know it's being recorded, but I'm going to write it down on my little notes here because I want to follow up on that case. I'm definitely going to follow up on that case. November 14th. They didn't say a time, but I'll figure it out the day before or the week before what time that case is going to go on. I'm going to follow up on that. That's crazy, man. Train of Truth is here. Enjoying this wake and bake, smoking it up, having a good time. On my lone, I'm all alone. On my lonesome. But I'm gonna be wrapping it up soon. We've only got like 2 videos left, and we're gonna call it a wrap. Most likely, I'll be back on here later. Okay, let's watch this story. See what's this about.
Caught in the act. Thousands of dollars worth of Pokemon cards stolen from a Worcester shop. Now, the
Oh
business
my
has
God.
only been open for a few months now, and naturally, the owner is fuming. I'm Courtney Cole.
And I'm David Wade. The store sells comics, trading cards, and movies. And as WBZ's Aaron Parsegian shows us, the owner calls the theft a betrayal.
Otaku means
Wow.
geeks and nerds in Japanese, and Sekai means world.
It's a world in Worcester created by John Lee, who left his corporate job 4 years ago to build a business.
You name it, we probably have it.
Catering to those with a shared nerdy interest in all things Japanese manga culture.
It's just something I grew up like.
Wow.
loving.
What started as a mall kiosk grew to this location on Park Avenue.
It's pretty big.
Thousands of products, but perhaps more importantly, achieves Lee's true goal.
Providing the space for people to come and just hang out, be social, meet each other.
Definitely when the store's busy. And it was a busy day in the shop Saturday when John says that open environment led to the ultimate betrayal of trust.
It was a very good opportunity for anyone that wanted to kind of like steal something.
Surveillance video shows a man in black flipping through Pokemon cards, stuffing them in his sweatshirt, and then walking out with another binder full of them. In total, he walked out with 500 cards worth more than $3,500.
Wow.
$3,000 is 2 weeks of my staff's pay. It's a lot of money to us.
On top of that, the cards stolen range from $5 to $15 a piece. Not the thousands some Pokemon cards can fetch, but that's what makes it even more frustrating in Lee's eyes.
My whole inventory in that price range is something that parents and kids can actually afford day to day. So it's kind of sad that my whole inventory in that price range is gone.
Now,
I should go to the store.
Inside. Worcester police are investigating, and in the meantime, Lee is making sure the incident doesn't take a toll or what makes this hobby so enjoyable.
Family bonding, you know, the
Maybe I
friends
should
and-
go there.
The emotion, the feels that's all into these cardboard is worth so much more than monetary value.
In Worcester, Aaron Parsegian, WBZ News.
Wow. Maybe I should go visit that store because Worcester, from where I live, it's about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour 20 minutes, depending on the traffic. Maybe an hour and 15 minutes. I could go visit that store and be like, "Hey, I saw you in the news, and I want to say sorry about what happened. Holy shit, that's fucked up." Very rookie, very new into the Pokemon. I'm not really in like, I don't know. I'm just didn't catch on really much to the Pokemon, but I did buy a couple of cards of Pokemon, and if you haven't noticed, they're on the desk. There's a couple of packs here. I have one right here. I have a pack of the new Mega. What's it called? Mega some shit. Is Mega Evolutions, I believe. And I have one over here. I have another pack over here. It's like right here. There's a pack right here and a pack right here. You guys didn't even notice that. And then I have another pack right here that you guys didn't even notice. A Pokemon. And this is, Mega Evolutions. The new series. I found them in the wild. Like, you usually don't find these out in the stores. It's they sell out really quick. And the fact that I ran across a couple of these, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Got my little Pokemon little setup there for those who rewatch or watching this at this point. You're like, ha, Rick got some Pokemon. I was like, yeah, I got a couple of packs. I'm gonna leave them on the desk. I don't think I'm gonna open them, just because you never know. The price on them, they go up. Like I'm gonna see if I can find more and buy them. I want to see if I can get more and buy more of them and just hold on to them and then give it to my niece. 20 years from now, those packs will be like $500 per pack. It's a great investment. I could just give them all to my niece and tell her, look, you sell them and $500 a pack, and take the money and do what you need for yourself, because that could really help her. That could help her with school. That could help her with hopefully her car will be paid off, but it will help her with her books for college. It will help a lot in the future. And you got to think, one pack, it's like, could be $500 in the future. And imagine if you could hold on to, like, I don't know, 20, 30 packs. It's a lot of money, And I want to see if I could find as many Pokemon that I can for a low price range, because I found them at Target for $4.99 a pack. I was like, oh my God. And I got them, but they only limit 2 per customer. I was like, oh man, that's fucking crazy. So I want to see if I go to Target and see if they have, and then I could just get like 2 packs if they have them. But other than that, it's just, hold it on for the future and then just passing it down, because I cannot take that with me when I die. You know what I mean? It has to be passed along, and I just pass it down to my niece, and then she could sell them, keep the money, and buy books, buy your college books with it. It'll be worth it. I mean, I got here 3 packs. That could be like 1,500 right there. And if I can find more, I'll get them and hold them for you. All right, let's see what we got here. I think we're heading towards the end. Aw, is this the end? Let me see. I think this is close to the end. We could add on, because the last one would be Tyson. So let's check this. Let's just check this one out, and then we'll go to the end. See what this story is about.
We have a problem. We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. And he sort of caught on. We're not going to ruin one of our great cities, because we'll make that great. It's impossible to think that New York City can have a communist mayor. He's a communist. He's not a socialist, by the way. There's a big difference. He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist. He hates police. It comes through the White House. The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. And I'm very generous, and I was always very generous with New York, even when you had opposition there, but I was always very generous. But I wouldn't be generous to a communist.
And there's President Trump, and it is the hot topic of the hour. The president doubling down on his threat to withhold federal funds from New York City should Democrat socialists, as President Trump called them communists, Zoran Mamdani, win in November. That's something he told us over the summer. It comes as new reports show Mamdani's campaign quietly took in nearly $13,000, potentially from illegally foreign donations, including one from his mother-in-law in Dubai. The New York City Campaign Finance Board records find at least 170 of the nearly 54,000 contributions to Mamdani's campaign came from donors with addresses outside of the United States.
Oh,
Only
that's
US
not
citizens
good.
or permanent legal residents are allowed to contribute to political campaigns. Violators who knowingly accept foreign donations could face hefty fines or even prison time. So far, the campaign has failed to return 88 of the foreign donations worth a total of more than $7,000. I'm with Mike Baker and Adam Johnson this morning. Your reaction?
Yeah, my reaction is that the people that support Mamdani, whether they're members of the Democratic Socialists of America or just hard left, they're not going to care about something like this. Just a couple of quick points. One is that if people want to see what Mamdani's policies would look like in action, take a look at Portland, Oregon. There's several members on the city council there who are members, official members of the Democratic Socialists of America, and others who are almost as far to the left as those individuals. And they've been trying to enact some of these same policies, and they're going to continue to try to enact them. Portland itself, I hate to say it because it's a beautiful city. I've got a lot of friends there, but it's a mess and has been for some time. And then, you know, the other point of this is Mamdani's not saying anything new, right? The crap that he's slinging right now is the same that we've been hearing ever since Stalin, right? And it's just same stuff. The only thing that's different is a new generation of youth in particular who haven't heard this line about free stuff before.
Yeah.
And so they're buying it, and you know, he may well win.
Well, here's the platform of the Democrat Socialists of America. I mean, this is their platform. He says he's a member of it. Defund the police, cut budgets annually towards zero, free all people from involuntary confinement, end prisons and jails, end all misdemeanor offenses.
Wow.
End investment in police training, disarm law enforcement officers, repeal truancy law, decriminalize squatting and other occupation of unused housing. Can you imagine a person goes into your house, starts living there when you're not there, call him squatting, and he wants to decriminalize
that person has more rights than you do.
Correct.
It's mind-boggling. It's already, and how many times do we talk about this? Excuse me. You walk into a drugstore and everything's all locked up.
Right.
Because it's no longer a crime in New York City to steal up to $750 worth of merchandise. Not a crime. Not only will you not be arrested for that, there are no consequences whatsoever.
Well, it's Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa and Zoran Mamdani. So this is a three-man race. It matters more than just New York. Everybody's watching this because if he wins, it's a leg up for the extremists in the Democrat Party, wouldn't you say?
Oh, you better believe it is. Well, remember also, the reason that he is in this position, the lead candidate, is because so few people voted in the primary. 485,000 people in New York effectively gave him the nod.
That's right.
Out of 5.5 million registered voters, that's 8%. So my hope is that people are going to show up and vote. And by the way, the Jewish community is 1 million strong in New York City. So please.
Well, he says he wants to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to Manhattan.
Right.
By the way, Zoran Mamdani is going to be on Fox News today. Martha has the interview. Join Martha on The Story at 3 o'clock for Mamdani. Let's hear him himself with Martha.
That's going to be pretty strong one. Strong interview. Oh Lord. Maybe I'll report on it tonight. We'll see. Now let's finish up the show. We're gonna wrap up the show with the last video of the day for the Wake and Bake. Been on here for 3.5 hours. Time flies by when you're having a good time on yourself. I know I'm having a good time by myself. But we got Tyson De La Cruz that's going to be here with us tomorrow. So we're going to watch Tyson De La Cruz to finish off the Wake and Bake. So let's go ahead and set it up. And a couple of clicks here, a couple of clicks there. And here we go.
Cheating scandal involving DMV workers on Long Island. Authorities say that one of the employees even wore a disguise, posing as a truck driver, taking the test for them.
America, we need to talk about a story that perfectly shows you how deep the corruption goes in our government system. A woman just got busted for wearing fake beards and mustaches to take commercial driver's license tests for people who never even showed up. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about one fraud scheme in Long Island. This is about a nationwide crisis where unqualified drivers are getting licenses to operate 80,000-pound trucks on the roads where families drive.
Prosecutors say a whistleblower who works here noticed something wasn't right, and that led to a widespread investigation. Look at each person facing the camera in each of these images. They are all the same person, according to prosecutors who say the woman who posed as all of these different men and women.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story is going to blow your mind because it shows you exactly how people look at our licensing system and said, this is a joke. And they're right until Trump decided to do something about it. Let me introduce you to Jamie Middleton, the woman at the center of this absolutely wild fraud scheme. This 34-year-old from Queens was getting paid $3,000 a test to impersonate commercial driver's license applicants at the Garden City DMV in Long Island.
Prosecutors say they helped the applicants skip the required test, and one woman even wore disguises to impersonate test takers.
But here's where it gets absolutely ridiculous. This woman was showing up wearing fake facial hair, sunglasses, and surgical masks, pretending to be men who were applying for commercial driver's permits. And get this, she forgot to take off her acrylic nails.
She's in disguise, coming in different clothing, even going so far as to wearing fake mustache.
The prosecutor literally said the fingernails gave it away. Come on. If you're going to wear facial masks and fake beard, take off your nails. If you're going to run a criminal enterprise to put unqualified truck drivers on our roads, at least pay attention to the details here. But here's what makes this even more insane. Jamie's sister, Kanita, was a DMV supervisor. A supervisor. Someone who was supposed to be making sure the system works properly and was running the scam from inside all along with 3 other DMV employees.
According to prosecutors who say the woman who posed as all of these different men and women did it for dangerous reasons.
Think about this business model for a second. People were willing to pay $3,000 rather than just study and take the test legitimately. What does this tell you about their confidence and actually being able to pass the test? And what does this tell you about the kind of drivers we're putting behind these massive trucks? Now, some people might say, hey, it's just a written test. What's the big deal? Let me tell you what the big deal is. 3 drivers actually got their commercial permits through this scheme. 3 people who never took the test, never proved that they could safely operate a commercial vehicle, got a license to drive trucks on public roads.
James Nurse, who ended up working here at the Town of Hempstead Recycling Center, where he spent over a year and a half driving a truck.
James was one of the people who got licensed through this fraud. He was driving a massive recycling truck through neighborhoods for over a year and a half. A government employee licensed only through lies, driving an 80,000-pound vehicle through streets where children play. As the prosecutor put it, a government employee licensed only through lies. And this wasn't some sophisticated operation. Jamie Middleton would literally come out of one test and go back to the counter and take another test 5 minutes later as a completely different person. The DMV workers would have photos of real applicants on their computers, but they let this woman with fake facial hair and beards and acrylic nails take the test instead. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. The Long Island scheme isn't isolated. This is happening across the country, and it's been going on for years. 3 months ago in Washington state, investigators uncovered another massive CDL fraud scheme. A CDL school in Auburn was literally mailing gold envelopes full of cash to third-party testers to ensure their students passed exams.
The State Department of Licensing says those gold envelopes full of cash are evidence believed to be bribes paid to a third-party tester.
Think about this for a second. They found multiple gold envelopes with birth dates written on them, and investigators could tie those birth dates directly to driver's license numbers. This wasn't casual corruption. This was an organized system of fraud.
They retested 74 drivers and 80% failed. At least 110 drivers ended up having their credentials canceled.
80%. That means 8 out of 10 people who were driving commercial licenses on our roads were never qualified to do so in the first place. As one investigator put it, these are 80,000-pound metal projectiles going down the freeway, and we're letting unqualified people drive them because corrupt officials were more interested in making money than protecting public safety. So what happened when the Trump administration found out about this massive fraud? They did what the previous administration should have done years ago. They shut it down.
Right now, there's a temporary pause on issuing and renewing limited-term
commercial driver's licenses across the country.
The Trump administration implemented an emergency action requiring states to audit their licensing system. No more limited term CDLs until states can prove that their systems aren't compromised by fraud. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy didn't slice up any words here. CDLs were given to dangerous foreign drivers who represent a direct threat to the safety of every family on the road. Of course, the usual suspects are crying about this. Immigration lawyers are calling it an attack on all immigrants. But let me ask you something. Is it an attack on immigrants to require that people actually pass the tests required to operate massive vehicles on public roads?
Immigration lawyer Carlos Triejo believes the order is an attack on all immigrants, both illegal and legal.
This isn't about immigration status. This is about public safety. When you have schemes like the one in Long Island, when you have schools mailing cash bribes to testers, when you have 80% of drivers fail when they're actually tested properly, you have a system that's completely broken. Now, I want to be clear about something. There are legitimate DACA recipients and legal immigrants who got their CDLs through proper channels and are now caught up in the audit process, and that's unfortunate, but it's not Trump's fault. It's the fault of the corrupt officials who created this mess in the first place.
George Rivera owns a trucking business. For 11 years, he's spent his days driving across the West.
George Rivera, DACA recipient featured on a news story, has been driving trucks for 11 years and owns his own business. He pays taxes, follows the rules, and built his own American dream. People like him shouldn't be punished for the corruption of others. But here's the reality. When you have systematic fraud in licensing systems, when you have people getting CDLs through fake beards and cash bribes, everyone gets caught up in the cleanup. That's what happens when government systems become so corrupt that they can't be trusted. The audit process will separate legitimate drivers from the fraudulent ones. It's going to be somewhat inconvenient. It's going to be somewhat disruptive, but it's absolutely necessary to restore the integrity of the system that's been completely compromised. This CDL fraud crisis perfectly illustrates a bigger problem we've been talking about for years. What happens when government systems prioritize speed and convenience over safety and integrity? Under the previous administration, under Joey B., the attitude was process as many applications as possible and ask questions later. The result? Fake beards at the DMV, cash bribes in gold envelopes, and unqualified drivers operating 80,000-pound vehicles on roads where families drive.
If we have a situation where people aren't getting tested or not getting tested properly, we don't know if they're a safe driver.
The Washington State investigator nails it. The bottom line, when you compromise testing standards, when you allow corruption in licensing systems, when you prioritize political correctness over public safety, people die. Families get destroyed by accidents that never should have happened. The Trump administration's response is exactly what leadership looks like. When you discover systematic fraud, you don't just prosecute the individual cases, you fix the entire system, even if it's disrupted, even if it's inconvenient, even if people complain about it. America, the Jamie Middleton case with the fake beards and acrylic nails might seem funny, which it is obviously, but it represents something deadly serious. When government employees become the criminals, when licensing systems become fraud schemes, when 80% of drivers can't pass legitimate tests, we have a public safety crisis. 7 people indicted in the Long Island scheme are facing up to 7 years in prison, and the Washington State CDL school lost its license. Over 110 fraudulent drivers had their credentials canceled, and now the entire system is being audited to root out the corruption. This is what accountability looks like. This is what happens when you have leadership that cares more about public safety than political optics. Yes, it's disruptive. Yes, legitimate drivers are caught up in the process. But the alternative is continuing to let unqualified people drive massive trucks on the roads where families travel. The fake beard scheme is over and the cash bribe operation is shut down. The systematic fraud is being exposed. And for the first time in years, we have confidence that commercial drivers actually know how to operate vehicles safely. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
The cruise. There. Go ahead and bring it up to me. Acting a little slow, but it's all good. All right, gotta get ready. I gotta get my butt going. Got some couple of errands I gotta take care of and so forth. But thank you for those who came by and watched, and for those who are rewatching, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. I hope you guys got a lot of info from what I watched this morning. And if you enjoy what I like, and if you like what you see, subscribe if you haven't subscribed and all that good stuff. For those people who are already subscribed, hit the like button, and you have the comment section for a reason. So use it whenever you feel like it. If not, it's okay. Have a good day, everyone, and I'll see y'all later. Peace, and continue having a good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're at. I'll be back on this later on tonight, so I'll catch you on the flip side. And yeah, just Trend of Truth is passing by right now, and I got things to do. You guys got things to do too. See y'all later. Peace.